Let us start our class with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Bhagavan Krishna, Mahavatar Babaji, Lari Mahashai, Swami Shri Yukteswarji, our Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, saints of all religions, we bow to all of you. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, great Gurus, receive our love, receive our desire to love you more, to attune our hearts and minds with your great presence. Om.
We asked those African ancestors pulled out of Africa, taken to the hells of North America, South America, the Caribbean, maintaining the spirit of African humanity in their hearts and in their minds, and who left us this enormous legacy of struggle. We asked those Africans who resisted enslavement in the villages of Africa, who resisted enslavement in the shores of Africa, who resisted enslavement in those forts and dungeons, who resisted enslavement in the holds of those ships, who resisted enslavement when they arrived on these shores in the New World. We asked these Africans who ran into the highlands of northeast Brazil and established for 100 years the first free republic in the Americas, the Republic of Palmares, and their last great leader, Zumbi, whose spirit and sacrifice. We asked these Africans who replicated the Brazilian experience and went into the highlands of Jamaica and became the maroon-free communities. We asked these Africans who went into the backwoods of the Guyanas and Suriname and created free republic of the Suramaka and the Ajuka. We asked these Africans who went into the backwoods of Georgia and the swamps of Florida and moved with the Seminole Indians and resisted oppression. We ask these Africans who left us a legacy of struggle and resistance, the likes of which no one in the world has, to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask these Africans who created and laid for us a foundation of struggle and resistance that was passed on generation after generation, that was passed on to Harriet Tubman, who fought her way out of enslavement and became a symbol of freedom for all of us. Similarly, Frederick Douglass and hundreds of thousands of others fought their way out of enslavement. We asked those Africans who went with Boukman, Dessalines, to create the greatest revolutionary experience in the history of the world, the Haitian Revolution, leaving us a legacy, the likes of which no one else has had. We asked these Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future.
Constitutionally due in September? And they may not be, for real. That's one thing, but another thing might be a Disaster Risk Management Act situation. We're going to take a break. We'll come right back. So we do have the beginning, which was kind of setting the pace, which was that whole COVID lockdown situation and the vaccines. We still have not worked out the purpose of the vaccine. We have all kinds of thinking on this, and I've, in no mean way, kind of just laid out my own analysis of what it was about and what it still is about. But I think this is something that we're going to see unfolding over time, and it's starting already, because a good thing is the research is coming in, and the scientists have now gone back to being scientists, and they are researching what the impact of the vaccines on human beings. And these weren't even vaccines, as you recall. These were gene therapy. They changed the definition of vaccines, of gene therapy, changed the definition of vaccines and gene therapy to make gene therapy a vaccine. And if you look, the research is all over the place. Not only that, remember, Pfizer has been ordered to release all of its trial documents, pre-trial, within trial, post-trial documents by a high court. And those documents are in the public domain. And it is frightening. They have been in the public domain for over 2 years now. I don't know if there's anyone else in Jamaica apart from myself who have read 90 odd percent. I think most Jamaicans haven't even read 1%. We've gone through some of what's in the documents in other programs. We won't do that this morning. But just to say that everything, our families are dropping dead from heart attacks, which we never know, so them had a heart problem. They're dropping dead from strokes. We never know, so them have that. They have all kinds of issues, blood clots, etc., etc. All of those are listed in the Pfizer pre-trial, post-trial, within-trial documents as side effects and serious side effects of the COVID-19 vaccines. I'm not going to go over that. I say it is a third phase of the Great Reset, and it is well underway. So we had the lockdown and the vaccines. We had the ushering into the space of the artificial intelligence, technocracy, and transhumanism all at once. And now we are seeing a reset of the global economic order. And I'll talk about that, hopefully. Yes, I'll talk about that in a minute or two. Let me just get through some news that we see coming from the continent of Africa. Mnangagwa in Zimbabwe is once again making a fool of himself. He was a fool from the beginning. He was a fool in the middle, and he's even a bigger fool right now. So we're seeing police patrolling the streets of Harare in Zimbabwe's capital. And they have been sent out to block protests. The people of Zimbabwe are protesting against Mnangagwa. They call him the crocodile. He, interestingly, wants to go for another term. He doesn't want to give up the position. He's 82. The British media is not reporting on this. Why? Because he's Britain's man in Zimbabwe. He's no Robert Mugabe. China's media is not reporting on that. Why? Because he's China's man in Zimbabwe. He's no Robert Mugabe. This is basically what we see unfolding on the ground in Zimbabwe. There is a Cold War between China and the West in most of the African countries. Remember the Angola model. 15 years ago, I started a series of programs entitled China in Jamaica, the Angola model. I've done at least 100, maybe more programs on this. And I think we probably have to revisit some of these programs. Because it's good to look back to go forward. It's kind of a Sankofa-ing. How did we get to where we are? How come this is where we are? But in any case, this is unfolding in Zimbabwe. So pay attention to what's going on there. Let's see what they are about to do next. The Rothschilds have invested £26 million invested by the Rothschilds in SpaceX. In Nigeria, we see the puppet president, Tinubu, in Nigeria. He's traveling to France. As he's traveling to France to go kowtow to little Emmanuel Macron and those colonizers in France, the foreign ministers of the Sahel, Burkina Faso, Mali, are heading to Russia. So Tinubu, the president of Nigeria, is traveling to France. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger are traveling to Moscow to boost ties with Russia. So Bola Tinubu, he's going to France for a 2-week visit. Which head of state ever visit a country for 2 weeks? Anyway, he's heading there for 2 weeks. And so we're watching that. And just to say what we're watching, what we're paying attention to, because we don't have a lot of time this morning to go into details into these. We're also seeing where Donald Trump has a daughter. Her name is Tiffany Trump. She is married to, what's his name? I can't remember the name of her husband. But her father-in-law, her husband's father, has been appointed senior advisor for Africa by the Trump administration, Masad Boulos. And This is very interesting. He's a father-in-law of presidential daughter Tiffany Trump, and he has been appointed senior advisor for Africa. And we're seeing talks of mineral deals between the United States and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And this is all part of that. So he's in charge of all of that. The DRC, interestingly, has reached out to the United States, and they have promised Donald Trump rare earth minerals if he intervenes in the carnage and the genocide that's happening in the DRC. It's going to be interesting. Out of the fourth industrial revolution, as we told you in 2020, 2019, 2020. And now we're seeing the new technocratic global order unfolding. We told you about that. So we had the way back then, and we carried this up at the time, the joint declaration of the Great Reset by Klaus Schwab, Antonio Guterres from the United Nations, announced by Charles III of England. Remember that. Also, we see the, and Jamaica has now taken this up to the global public-private partnership of the World Health Organization and the United Nations. And there's also the document. Remember, we told you about the document called Our Common Agenda and the Pact for the Future. That was in September 2024. Go back and read those documents. We went through those documents with you. Everything is in order in terms of how all of this has been planned. Nothing has surprised me so far. It is exactly how they say it would happen. So we're seeing this new economic global order that is underway now, a new financial system with a world currency tipped to replace the US dollar. That is a plan. They have said this. This is not even new. This is, I'm not giving any news right here. They have been talking about the world currency, wood system, and the financial system, then the United Nations, the IMF and so on, and the United Nations came into effect right after World War II. This is exactly what it looked like. Mantling the old order, he's not doing it single-handedly. It's not like a Trump thing. This is well planned. There's a whole cabal behind him. World Economic Forum, United Nations, all the institutions, and those we can see and those we can't see. This is what they said they would do, and this is what they're doing. They're ushering the new world order. Technocracy, transhumanism are the goals. So Vision 2030 is still on the agenda. Check the United Nations Pact for the Future. Peter Thiel, for example, is a driving force behind that. Elon Musk, remember Elon Musk's grandfather led the technocracy movement in Canada. Doge, the aim of Doge is exactly what it is unfolding as. Nothing is new there, nothing is frightening, nothing is strange. To replace humans with rule by algorithm. This is basically what's going to happen. To birth the ultimate digital automated government. And I'm not saying it's a good thing or it's a bad thing. And I'm not saying it's going to fail or it's going to win. I'm just saying that this is a plan. And they have been working on it for a good while now. Let me take a break. Say goodbye. Remember now, Peter Thiel was the World Economic Forum's young global leader in 2007. Elon Musk was the World Economic Forum's young global leader in 2008. That's the same year he started Tesla. The same year that we had Peter Thiel moving into everything that he's in now, Palantir. All of these are connected, Palantir, Starlink, Neuralink. The foundation for the global cybernetic mind, transhumanism. And then we had the announcement of a Stargate project with OpenAI, Oracle, Microsoft. That was just at the beginning of Donald Trump's presidency. And he promised then we had the promise from the technocrats behind him, Oracle in particular, OpenAI, Microsoft is in that too, to cure all diseases and to bring about artificial general intelligence. And then they talked about artificial super intelligence, which is in essence a technological singularity. So that there is a whole lot that's happening at the same time, but it is strategic. It is strategic, organized chaos. And we're not saying that they're going to succeed. We're saying they're doing what they planned to do. So we're witnessing the World Economic Forum's fourth industrial revolution at rocket speed. And what does this need? This needs power. It needs resources to succeed. And part of that, the war machine is critical in all of that. The military-industrial complex, the war machine is critical to this process. So what's happening in Ukraine, in Yemen, in Gaza, in Palestine, in Syria, in Somalia, in Libya, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, in Sudan. And by the way, they are now squeezing Sudan because Marco Rubio just announced that they are rescinding, they're taking away from all Sudanese, and I say all, but I have to go back to look to see who these include, but it's a massive amount of Sudanese. They're rescinding their visas and, in essence, sending them right back into a genocide. There's a reason they're doing that, because China controls Sudan. And the Cold War is between the US, the West, and China. Everything is connected. So Sudan is going to capitulate in the same way that we had Panama, that we have, hasn't said that it has, but Jamaica has. Everything will come to light in a moment. Whole fourth industrial revolution, because technocracy and transhumanism demands rare earth minerals. It demands energy. That is why the DRC, Sudan, Ukraine, Greenland, all of these are critical to the process. Greenland is not a joke, you know. I know people are laughing at the whole Greenland thing. Greenland, Mexico, Canada, the whole thing is not a joke. War is critical to the process for the global reset, for the global change. And we're seeing this unfolding. These geopolitical upheavals, they will trigger emergency powers, and people will call for an end to the era of chaos. Anthony Gutierrez, remember, he announced that we have entered an era of chaos. Remember, we heard that from Gutierrez, you know. Read the United Nations Common Agenda again. We have entered an era of chaos. It is going to trigger that end. By the way, do you know that they now have coins minted depicting Donald Trump as a rebuilder of the Third Temple of Jerusalem and one of the champions of the Sons of Light against the Sons of Darkness, along with Benjamin Netanyahu, by the way? Both men have also said that they intend and they will open the gates of hell. But that is just an aside. So we're seeing the digital global order unfolding. Read the United Nations Pact for the Future again. And all this fire that we're seeing, and they're burning down everything. But out of the ashes, out of the ashes of all of this, will rise a new multipolar world system with technates or regional blocks. The regional blocks are critical because there are two men that I need to tell you about, right? One is... and I'll tell you in a while. I'll tell you now. The chair of the Economic Advisory Council to Donald Trump, and the other is a student of that man. But if you notice, the documents they have written, the books they have published together, are now on the table. So all of this is being used now. The chair of the Economic Council is interesting because he's economic advisor to Donald Trump. He's written about all of this. So while it looks like a unipolar situation and it looks like a conflict and a tension, of course it does look that way. These two men seem to be on the opposite side, but they're taking two different paths now because one is Democrat and one is Republican. But if you listen to what they're both saying, they're heading in the same direction, just on two different paths. So now we're seeing the plans well underway for the network of smart cities. We're seeing the plans for everything to be run by AI systems, to be controlled by the techno kings, and the call for the North America Union. As a matter of fact, the call for the North America Union was published in the Daily Gleaner here in Jamaica, written by one of these men that I'm telling you about. And it's interesting because he's making that call. He is a Democrat. It's the very same plan that is ultimately being put into motion when you hear discussions on Mexico, Greenland, Canada. Just look at that. Panama. Just look at all of that. So they're thinking of this union of technates. And I think basically this technocracy movement that we have been talking about in this space from the 1930s, they actually talked about the technate of America, you know. And this is what we see unfolding right now. So the Council of Economic Advisors it's chaired by Stephen Miron. And Stephen Miron is the author of the seminal work entitled A User's Guide to Restructuring the Global Trading System, Economic Policy, Trade, and Finance. So could you please go read that document? And let's talk about it another week. A User's Guide to Restructuring the Global Trading System, Economic Policy, Trade, and Finance. And he co-authored the book entitled Activist Treasury Issuance and the Tug of War over Monetary Policy. He co-authored that with Dr. Nouriel Roubini. Dr. Nouriel Roubini has been writing in the Daily Gleaner. It's interesting. And he seems to be writing against what Donald Trump is doing. But he's going in the very same direction. Two parts to the very same thing. Now, this is pretty serious because one of the reasons why we talk about strategic organized chaos is because economic advice to the president on domestic and international economic policy, leveraging his expertise as a senior strategist at Hudson Bay Capital Management and co-founder of Amber Wave Partners. So what I can tell you, Stephen Miron, A User's Guide to Restructuring the Global Trading System, is a template that is being rolled out. And so I want you to read this and let's come back and talk about it. And it needs reform. And in the document and in the books, they provide a guides or tools for reshaping the global trading system. And they have diagnosed the problem. They diagnose the problem as economic imbalances. The root of economic imbalances, they say, lies in the overvaluation of the US dollar and reserves assets. So they are demanding for reserve assets drives they say the demand for reserve assets drives the overvaluation of the US dollar. So when they're up in arms, people are saying, oh, the dollar is falling and the stocks are falling. They intended for that to happen. And that's why Marco Rubio, just a few days ago, said, no, this will reset itself. This is exactly what we want. Nothing wrong here, nothing to see, move along. So they're saying that the U.S. can pursue multilateral approaches to address the current misvaluation, and the U.S. can also pursue unilateral approaches to address the current misvaluation. And one of that, of course, is tariffs and national security. In conjunction with national security concerns, this is what Stephen Miron is advising. And we assume he's advising the president about this because this is what he wrote, right, in his User's Guide to Restructuring the Global Trading System. He is a chair of the Economic Advisory Council, and he argues that tariffs and national security must work in tandem. Tariffs to be implemented in conjunction with national security concerns. What are the two things we hear the Trump administration talking about right now as a global reset gets underway? One is tariff, the other is national security. It's only tariff and national security, hardly anything else. The U.S. will protect its interests through tariffs and other trade policies. This is the plan. It has always been the plan. So they talk about implementing and monitoring. So implementation of a roadmap, a clear implementation roadmap, they say, is necessary for successful reform. And progress must be monitored to ensure the desired outcomes are achieved. They also say reform is necessary. So a reset is necessary of the global trading system. Stephen Miron, who is the chair of the Economic Advisory Council, Donald Trump's chief economic advisor, has written a document entitled A User's Guide to Restructuring the Global Trading System, Economic Policy, Trade and Finance. He argues in that document that the reform of the global trading system, the reset of the global trading system, is necessary to address economic imbalances. And one way to reset this is with tariffs. He says in the document, a new approach is needed to reshape the global trading system and promote American interests. Talks about revenue generation. This is what you hear Marco Rubio talking about. This is where you hear the talking heads who are all over the media talking about. Tariffs, he said, can generate revenue for the U.S. government with minimal inflationary side effects. This is what Marco Rubio said yesterday. This is straight from the document. This is straight from the playbook. This is strategic. This is organized strategic chaos. Writes in that document that tariffs can help adjust trade imbalances by reducing imports and increasing exports. He says tariffs can protect American industries from unfair trade practices and competition. He says tariffs can be used as a negotiating tool to secure better trade deals with other countries. Do I have to read that again? He says tariffs can be used as a negotiating tool to secure better trade deals with other countries. What is happening right now in Italy? Isn't this what is happening? NATO is also meeting. Let us hear what NATO says. The European Union and everyone is up in arms. But the plan is well laid out. Let me take a quick... No, we don't? All right, yeah, let me take a... With the RMO, Rastafari Mansions and Organizations, that's coming up shortly. We're standing by for our guests to take their places in the studio. So until they do that, let me just go through a little bit more on why I say that what's unfolding in the United States is part of the Great Reset. It is not shocking. It is nothing out of what we anticipated. But even beyond that, there is a document, and all the documents that I've mentioned in the space this morning, they're all connected. For example, the Pact for the Future, the United Nations, that's connected to this document that we're talking about, the Common Ground document, that is connected to this document. Project 2025, that's connected to this document. And I'd like to say something else, right? Even if the Democrats had won, if you listen to Nuriel Rubini, and if you read the article, type in his name, Nuriel Rubini, and what he's arguing in the Daily Gleaner, because he's written an article in the Daily Gleaner in the past few days. What he's arguing is basically how the Democrats would go. But remember that Nuriel Rubini is the co-author of the document with Stephen Miron. And so they would have taken two different parts. But look at the recommendations being made by Nuriel Rubini in the Daily Gleaner. And compare that to what we hear Donald Trump saying, to what we see unfolding, and see if it's not the very same thing. It's just two different parts. So they're not really disagreeing, and this is why it's appearing this way. So the bottom line to all of that is that the Democrats would have done the very same, not process, but outcome. They would have gone for the very same outcome because there has to be a global reset. The global reset has been in train from 2019 They told us the COVID lockdown, once we came out of the COVID lockdown, we were never in the same economic order. We were never in the same world order. We were never in the same food security order. We were never in the same order, period, once we came out of 2 years of lockdown. So basically, everything that's unfolding right now is leading to technocracy and transhumanism. And they intend to go really far with this. And I'm not saying it's going to work. I'm saying that they're planning their own downfall because they think that the U.S. economy can bounce back from this. But they are underestimating China and the rest of a term that we don't like to use, but we use it from time to time, the global south. And this is why we hear Nouriel Roubini talk about the bloc, that trading bloc. And he includes in that bloc, the North American bloc, Canada, Mexico, Greenland, the Americas. It's the very same plan that Donald Trump has. Donald Trump is going the route that the chair of the Economic Advisory Council has written about. Stephen Mirren has written about this, and we're taking you through what Mirren has said over time. Says currency offset, which of course refers to the practice of adjusting currency exchange rates to offset the impact of tariffs. He talks about currency offsets working by adjusting the value of the US dollar relative to other currencies, which can help minimize inflationary impact of tariffs. This is basically what we're saying. This is why you hear Donald Trump talking so much about China committing a crime because of how they have manipulated their currencies. So US is looking at how China has manipulated its currencies over time. It never mattered, it appeared, whether or not China's currency was, competitive with the US dollar. They understood something. And so this is what the US is understanding now on the advice of Stephen Mirren. So the benefits of this, they say, could help to reduce the inflationary impact of tariffs. And this is what we see happening right now. To increase the competitiveness of American exports. This is what we see happening right now. Or they're talking about that right now. And they say the currency offsets can be implemented through various mechanisms, including monetary policy adjustments, currency market interventions, capital control measures. Let us watch and see what they're doing. And Stephen Mirren has identified a relationship between tariff policy and the currency offsets. He says tariff policy and currency offsets can be used as complementary tools to achieve trade policy objectives. Listen to Marco Rubio. This is what he's saying as he's going around the world. He says that it's mutually reinforcing. In other words, tariff policy and currency offsets can be mutually reinforcing, with tariffs helping to adjust trade imbalances and currency offsets helping to minimize the inflationary impact of tariffs. So the fall in the stock market, the fall in the US dollar, that the CNN and all of the liberal media are falling all over themselves over, these economic advisors and these technocrats, this is exactly what they want. And this is exactly what is happening. So they talk about careful calibration, that the use of tariff policy and currency offsets requires careful calibration to avoid unintended consequences, such as currency wars or trade wars. Lots of discussions about trade wars. We don't hear them talking about currency wars yet. But the US dollar and the stock market and the old economic order has to crash. It has to crash for the new economic order to be brought into being. I'm not saying that is going to be the best thing. I'm not saying that is going to win. I am just analyzing the situation from where I stand, because there is so much panic. But do we know what to do? I mean, it is what it is, and it is the isness of things. But what are we doing? Are we waiting for the US dollar to crash to say, a Jamaican dollar can be revalued? The dollar is going to be out anyway. Did you see the report in the Jamaica Observer? I think it was yesterday, or it might have been earlier this morning, talking about how the banks are making it so that people are pushed out of the banks and are doing banking digitally. It's going to move from there to the cybernetic situation, you know. It is coming. I know that hardly anyone I know, in having serious conversations about these things, they see a whole lot happening in between. But there's everything happening everywhere all at once. This is basically how this thing is unfolding. So I know Donald Trump has said that he's against the digital currency. But remember, the white paper has already been tabled. We carried all of that to you in COVID, in the whole COVID lockdown. We read all of that. It was passed by both houses. The digital currency is going to come on stream. And one of the reasons why this is going to happen is that unless you're going to get China, Asia, and so many countries who are already gone that way. I said last week, China is already living in 2077. We don't know this because we do not want to know this. As far as the digital economy, the smart cities, the artificial intelligence, the electric vehicles, all of that, China is already living in 2077. We are way behind. Because we're not paying attention, we think that the U.S. is driving the process. The U.S. is trying to catch up. That is why there is such a serious war on China. Now they're talking about bombing Iran. War is necessary to the process. And so the idea of starting another war, even though Donald Trump ran on the ticket that he wouldn't start another war, he has already bombed Somalia. He has already bombed Syria. He's continuing to bomb Gaza. Don't tell me that it's Israel bombing Gaza. There's no difference between Israel and the United States. So he's bombing Gaza. All of this is necessary for the change. And it seemed chaotic, but it is strategic, organized chaos because they have a plan. And they think that from out of this plan, they can save themselves. It's too late for America to save itself, but they are going to try, even if they die trying. And the point I'm making is all of this is unfolding as it should, as they want it to. Where do we stand? If we do not do for self, we're going to get caught in the middle. We're going to be trapped like rats in a rat trap. If we do not excuse ourselves, get rid of their poisons from out of our spaces, look toward our own food security, first of all. I think that's the most important thing because Bill Gates is in all of this and they have already moved to make every single food beyond GMO, 3D printed. This is basically where they are. Not only that, remember Roundup? They started this thing a long time ago. So they gave us Roundup to kill our land. This is what Roundup does. It kills the land. It kills the plant. It kills the seed. And then they gave us Roundup Ready seeds. And in Jamaica, we think it's a big deal. The Ministry of Agriculture and everybody talk about Roundup Ready seeds. We are such idiots. We're such fools that we have latched on to the phrases that they come up with from time to time, Roundup Ready seeds. So now our corn, our beans, our grains, all of that is in serious danger. Because not just that, even for those who do organic farming, you're in serious danger because of a cross-pollination and the fact that your own seeds are going to die. One of the things that we should have been doing for years now is ensuring that we have a seed bank. But do we know what to do? It is still not late to do something. But Jamaica is not about to do anything. Jamaica is waiting on the United States. We are the lackey of the United States. We do not have, as a nation, the will, the strength to do any of this. So we already sold out to China. How is that going to work? Jamaica sold out to China 10 years ago. So that sale is locked up. How are we going to extricate ourselves from this? Or are we going to caught up in this war on the seas? Because part of this is access. Access now is trading we're talking about. We're in the middle of a trade war. China is not about to back down. We see what's happening in the Panama Canal. China has come out and said, listen, BlackRock, you can't have these ports. Hong Kong is about to sell the ports to China. China said, not on my watch. Got in his back pocket. Let us see, he says, what China will do. Let us have a talk and trade. And maybe we will not sell TikTok. Commandments for a Rastafari Act. We'll be speaking with Sister Nanny Williams, Honorable Priest Lamont, Dr. Kerida Mark, Dr. Marcus Goff, and Dr. Kadamawe Knife. And we're just standing by for our guests to be in studio, and then we go right to the discussion. In the meantime, I want to just to underscore something that I've been saying, which is the urgent recommendations made in the document for reform of the global trading system by Stephen Miron, who is chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, advising the President of the United States. We've gone through some of it, but then just to go over some of the recommendations that he's made in those documents. One, of course, is addressing the dollar overvaluation. So they think that the dollar is overvalued. The document emphasizes the need to correct the overvaluation of the US dollar, which is driven by global demand for reserves asset. This overvaluation, they said, has led to structural trade deficits for the US, harming American manufacturing. And remember globalization? We did so many programs on globalization in this program because we witnessed globalization. And I remember opening the phone lines for days on end, just talking about globalization, talking about the free market, talking about capitalism, talking about the fact that even deregulation, remember, we witnessed, if you're Generation X, we witnessed deregulation and how it damaged our nations, developing nations. So it's a reversal to some extent of that old order. And so we're having a new economic order. And one of the things that's at the center of that is implementing tariffs. Stephen Miron, who is the author of A User's Guide to Restructuring the Global Trading System, Economic Policy, Trade and Finance, and Dr. Nouriel Roubini, who co-authored with Stephen Miron the activist treasury issuance and the tug-of-war over monetary policy, appear to be on different paths, but they're heading in the same direction. Dr. Roubini worked he was economic advisor under Trump, but they both agree. And if you read the documents, the books, you recognize that they agree. The paths that they're taking are different paths. That's simple it. So one of the things they're talking about, and to correct trade imbalances, and they're saying that the tariffs should be implemented in such a way so it's not too volatile. This is why Marco Rubio is going around the world talking about, oh no, they will bounce back. Stephen Miron also said in his document, that developing countries can withstand the shock. They will just adjust themselves and bounce back. They can say that because developing countries adjusted themselves during COVID, that entire 2 years of lockdown with nothing, and somehow bounce back with the Bretton Woods institutions, the International Monetary Fund, and so on. And this is what they're holding over a lot of them head, actually. Look at CARICOM. CARICOM sounds wishy-washy. CARICOM doesn't have a plan. Andrew Holness is going to be the next head of CARICOM. The next high-level CARICOM meeting is going to be in Jamaica. Let's see if they have a plan. I hear what the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, is saying. But even Mia Mottley is a capitalist, and we love her, but she's a capitalist. Capitalist 2.0. We do not need capitalism in this space. These people are moving away from that old order. Remember, they do capitalism 2.0, neoliberalism. And we have gone through all of those. These are labels for how colonialism and oppression continues to impact us as a people. Outside of that, though, they are moving now into technocracy and transhumanism. A lot of things are not going to matter. One of the things that's not going to matter is race. Because slave is going to be slave wherever you are. And I'm saying this in the space that is the Africa Forum. So what do we say about ourselves and what do we do? They're talking about regional blocks. They're talking about protectionism. They're talking about nationalism. We say one Africa, one nation. What do we do? Where's the Africa Union in all of this? Where's CARICOM in all of this? It is shocking. It is shocking that, I'm not an economist. I'm just playing one right now. But it's shocking that we can see this. And we have been seeing this for 15 years. It was going to happen. We saw it during COVID. We've been talking about it. But that those in authority, is it that they've seen it but decided to do nothing? Or is it that they can't see it? I want us as a people to make a decision this morning that we cannot be part of this rat race. We're going to have to determine as a nation, as a people, as a group of people, how we move forward for self-preservation. Self-preservation is a key. The preservation of our nation, of ourselves, of our community, of our families, of our children. And as I've said many times in this space, critical to this is food security, water security. China has put out an entire document just a few weeks ago talking about the importance of water. Everywhere in Jamaica that China is, they are beside or within or right on top of the water sources. The government of Jamaica has presided over 10 years of the worst kind of vulgarity, wickedness, oppression, and sellout of an island that any people have witnessed anywhere. It's worse than what Columbus and them people did to the Tainos and the Africans who were here before Columbus come. It's like a disease. So if you look around Jamaica right now, Jamaica is a landlocked country. We have no access to no river. We have no access to no sea. We have no access to no water. How come under our watch we have been locked out of the rivers? And even as I speak, now I want to say something to Mark Golding, because I saw you in a video clip, I think it's on Instagram, standing up at a new hotel built in some parish, I don't know if I St. James or somewhere, or Hanover or Negril or somewhere down there. And just talking about how you're glad that this hotel is beside the Mangrove and this near Mangrove Hotel and don't see nobody on the sea behind you, nobody on the beach behind you. It means that people do not have access to that sea. What kind of colonial... Let me take a break. But I want to say to Mark Golding, one of the reasons why we're in the situation that we're in right now, in terms of access to the water, access to the land, access to the river, access to the sea. Because remember, it was Portia Simpson Miller who signed that document in China that we still are not able to see. We have requested this document by through the Access to Information Act. And over the years, you have found ways to tell us that we cannot get it. Okay. I hear that we can sue for it. But remember, it is Portia Simpson Miller who signed that document. It was Andrew Holness who came and strengthened that document. And now we've lost almost everything. And I know that there are people who are looking to the opposition to say, what are your plans for access to the water? People cannot live. We're island people. We can't live without water. We're the children of Oshun. We can't live without water. What are your plans for us to access the water, the river, the sea, and so on? And we've been asking, people are asking because it's obvious that the government, the JLP administration has no intention. The public-private partnership coming from the World Economic Forum, it is to me, here in Jamaica, this is where we perfected that whole idea because we have a ministry called the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. And that ministry is the embodiment and the epitome of the public-private partnership. We bond that. We bond that. Do you understand what I'm saying? That is a sellout if there's ever a sellout. Now, Mark Golding, where do you stand, for crying out loud? Where do you stand? Because we see you standing on the beach on the body of the back of you. We see you talking about mangroves. Mangroves? Do you know what mangroves are for? Do you understand the importance? Which hotel they on mangrove? I do really need to take a break. My very special guests are in the studio. And if I do not take a break, I think Nani, Chief Tetchy, Paul Bogle, and all of my ancestors, them who the writers are now with me, going to take over. And it is going to be a very serious thing because it's about time we call a spade a spade. We sit down consuming American television, talking about how Donald Trump doing this and Donald Trump doing that. When what are we doing? What do you do for self? What are we doing? How are we going to ensure that we have food security? How are we going to ensure that we have water security? If they can't tell us that, then let them go away. And I've been saying here in this space, you know, that we need to go register to vote. I think the deadline gone. But right now, vote for who? And vote for what? If them Marlene Malahoo votes for the election or due, it want due, and if it don't want due, not due, I can't vote for none of them things here. Right? I'll be ready to vote to get rid of Charles, King of England. But the way me I see this now, no, I'm going to take a break.
One Uptown TV. Yo, enough there, me I represent. Bang.
Been representing a man for Uptown TV.
Bad we bad Gaza, bad we bad. Bad we bad Gaza.
To welcome them in this segment, we're going to be talking about advance of the Rastafari Nation and demandments for a Rastafari Act. We have in studio Dr. Karita Mack and our sister Nani Williams. Thank you so much for coming in.
Give thanks.
All right.
Give thanks, Sister Kabu.
I'm very happy to see both of you. Sister Nani, I haven't seen you in a long while, but it's a longer time that I haven't seen Dr. Karita.
I tell you, Sister Kabu, this is a trust test up for the faithful because to reach here by 7 a.m.
I thought so. I kind of did think that. So we're happy you're because you're coming in from Mobay, Sister Nani, and Sister Karita, you're coming from Kingston. Wow. So thank God for the North-South Highway and the other one.
And you have at least 3 ones on the line listening in.
All right. So they're not in yet. So as soon as they come in, we'll bring them up on the board. But this is an interesting, and the 3 ones we're going to be online are Dr. Kadamawa Knife, Dr. Marcus Garth, the Honorable Priest Lamont, right? All right. You'll recall that a few weeks ago when we had Minister of Constitutional Affairs, Marlene Malahoo Fort, in the studio, Dr. Karita called in, and one of the things that she talked about was what we're going to talk about today, the Rastafari Mansions and Organization a submission on the Constitution Amendment Act 2024. But we're going to go through that and also what are some of the issues facing Rastafari and what Rastafari are calling for right now, especially against the background of the constitutional reform that we keep talking about and we keep hearing about. But first of all, a little bit about the RMO, Rastafari Mansions and Organizations. What is the RMO?
Yes, give thanks, Sister Kabu. And really want to give thanks to you for this important and significant, opportunity at this time, for the Running Africa program to allow us to air the issues. And yes, the RMO is Rastafari Mansions and Organizations. It's an umbrella organization that consists of 14 different organizations within the Rastafari movement in Jamaica. And it is why I think it is significant at this time. It is that we are now 10 years. In April of this year, Rastafari Coral Gardens Benevolent Society was registered as a benevolent society to address the atrocities of 1963, and so we are 10 years now. As an organization, formal organization, agitating.
10 years?
10 years, yes. And it is also 10 years since the amendment to the Dangerous Drugs Act. So we 10 years after, we want to see how much we have, what have we gained, or what are we still yet to gain, So it is a significant moment. And also, the government ministries and departments really need to be aware of our existence. We have written to the Ministry of Culture, addressing the fact that we are in existence and some of our demandments, and we have not received a response.
When did you write to the ministry?
In December of last year.
From December till now, you don't get a response?
Not a response yet.
From the ministry?
Pardon? Yes.
That's kind of shocking, Sister Nani.
It is shocking.
Did they get the letter?
Yes, we're sure, because we have received feedback from, without a written response, but we have received feedback.
To say that it's in the ministry. It's on the minister's desk,
and
at
we
least?
have detected some amount of resentment, I must say. Previously, we have been hearing all along that the Rastafari movement needs to unite. So I thought that saying to them that no, we are united and here we are, want to sit at the table, to respectfully and mutually agree on, the issues that confront us.
Well, let me ask you. You said how many mansions?
14. So 14 different organizations.
Yes. Who are these 14?
Oh, well, we have the EABIC, which is the Bobo Shanti House, Rastafari Coral Gardens Benevolent Society, Starscape Sanctuary, Sugarloaf Peak, Nyabingi Center, Root House in Montego Bay,
School of
Vision, and
Rastafari Village.
Rastafari Indigenous Village.
About 12 tribes of Israel?
12 tribes of Israel, no, but we have been communicating with them, and they are on board with the demandments that we have sent out to the government. Also, the Nyabingi House, they have been sitting with us, but they have not formally signed the constitution, but they are also on board.
Okay. They're part of the RMO?
They are observers.
Okay, they're observers.
They have observer status, but they have not signed the agreement, the constitution.
Could this be one of the reasons why you haven't heard back from the ministry?
No, because in our letter to them, as a matter of fact, the document that we use all the time, our letterhead and so on, indicates the number of organizations and the names. So it's at the footnote you have all the organizations that are members. It is not that. It is that we, as I say, there's a little bit of, you see, Rastafari is still not yet fully respected as a movement, and we have to just plainly say it.
So when you said that two things. You said there's a little resentment, and then you said Rastafari not fully respected. Where's this little resentment that you're picking up coming from? And then who is not yet fully respecting Rastafari?
Well, the officials to whom we have written, without having to call any names.
Oh, but you said the Ministry of Culture.
The Ministry of Culture, we wrote to them, yes.
Right. So
we requested that they assist in setting up an interministerial committee, right? Because the issues that we face are, apply to different ministries. We face the issues of vaccination, Ministry of Health, the issue of our brethren still being arrested for ganja, which is the Ministry of Justice, cultural issues.
Intellectual property issues, because I've gone through the document,
right,
and I've looked at it. I've read through the document very, very carefully, and I thought to myself that you're going to get a serious pushback from these oppressors.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, Sister Kheru, but that is what
That
it is.
is what it is. It is what it is.
Well, listen, you know, in earlier times, you know, Rastafari was being killed, you know, by authorization and, you know, expectation of the state. So look where I and I is coming from far, you know. So is the struggle never begin today and won't end today, you know.
Aluta continua,
But,
Victoria is certain.
Yes. So that is the act is really to try to circumvent and prevent subsequent generations from having to do what I and I are doing right now, which is running from ministry to ministry. There's issues every time there's a different issue. There's ones having to go to the street. If Rastafari as a nation is to develop and spend focus on the things that should be focused on, children's education, economic growth, how can that be done when every other day there's a member of the community being persecuted, discriminated against? There's a lot of distraction.
Yeah, we are in a reactionary mode as opposed to development mode, you know.
So how critical is for this to move forward? Obviously, a lot of work has been done in the background from what I've seen. So the next step is to implement some of what is there. But how critical is it to the process for the Ministry of Culture to respond, or to any ministry, for example?
Well, it is critical that they respond, but we still are not going to sit and wait, because we truly are not begging them for anything. We are really demanding our rights, you know, and it is a rights issue, and that is why we sent in the submission in respect of the constitutional reform.
I want to go through those two things, the demandments.
But maybe if I can just interject right there, Kabu, because I think it's an important point what Sister Nani was saying. We cannot wait on the ministry. We expect that they will come around, you know, and acknowledge, because we know that Brand Jamaica is extremely influenced by Rastafari. So there's already benefit, there's already acknowledgement of the central vein that Rastafari play in this nation. There's no doubt, but it's not legitimized. So what it is now is that programs like these are critical, because we have to now depend on the public support, because we know in every community, Rastafari is respected. In fact, is even the accountability to Rastafari itself, because globally, Jamaican community know what is Rastafari, and it's the truth and the light. So is that has to be defended by the people now, where the people need to be standing up and say, yes, brothers and sisters within the Rastafari nation cannot be continued to be discriminated in this time and place.
I want to go through some of those issues, and especially right after the break, and especially so to look a little bit more at the letter that was sent to the ministry, but also to say what are the demandments and the requests that have been sent also to, I think when you were online, the Rastafari Mansions and Organization submission of the Constitutional Reform Amendment. So let me take a quick break.
Safe, reliable.
You're with me, Sister Nani Williams and Dr. Kheru Mack, and we need to tell you a little bit about them both. So let me do that before we go any further. So Dr. Kheru MacDonald is a public relations and advocacy at the Rastafari Mansions and Organizations. She does public relations and advocacy at the Rastafari Mansions and Organizations. That's the RMO. She's a former senior advisor in the communication for development section in UNICEF HQ. She coordinated UNICEF's first global initiative, Faith and Positive Change for Children, Families and Communities. Previously, Dr. MacDonald served as Chief of Communication for Development in UNICEF Ethiopia. Lots happening in Ethiopia now, Dr. MacDonald. We need to spend some time talking about that. Ethiopia is trying to get to the Red Sea, access to the Red Sea. And I'm sorry I'm going off like that, but it is really critical. She's also former head of the Young Child Survival and Development Programs, former head at UNICEF in Tanzania, former national officer heading the Early Childhood Development Program, UNICEF Jamaica. Dr. MacDonald worked with UNICEF for 25 years across a wide range of programmatic areas, including health, nutrition, hygiene, and sanitation promotion, early childhood development, education, child marriage, female genital cutting, violence prevention, and peace building. And before joining UNICEF, she freelanced as an international early childhood and education consultant with several development agencies, including the World Bank, USAID, IADB, Caribbean Child Development Center, University of the West Indies, and Government of Jamaica. She was also a TV host and producer for a children's TV program in Jamaica for over 2 years with the Jamaica Broadcasting Corporation. Is we sure that, Sister McDonald, we sure was that?
Play and learn.
Play and learn. Okay, there you go. As a Fulbright scholar, Dr. McDonald holds a doctorate and master's degree in international education from Harvard University. She also has a bachelor's degree in early childhood development and psychology from Boston University. And Sister Nanny Pamela Williams, she's no stranger to the space. She's been here time and time again. She is a co-chair of the Rastafari Mansions and Organizations, secretary of the Coral Gardens Benevolent Society. And coming on the phone lines, Priest Lamont, priest from the Ethiopia Black National Congress and founding member of the Rastafari Mansions and Organizations, Dr. Kadamawe Knife. You know him. He holds a PhD in sustainable development and an MSc in economics. Rastafari Mansions and Organizations business development consultant. He coordinated the BSc in management and entrepreneurship option as a researcher and lecturer in the Mona School of Business and Management. His research focuses on social entrepreneurship and the application of dynamic strategic planning techniques in planning, policy, and project development. He's currently the director of the Office of Social Entrepreneurship and Youth Crime Watch Jamaica. And while his primary focus is on social entrepreneurship, Dr. Knife is also an associate researcher with the Institute of Sustainable Development at UWI. And on the phone lines, also no stranger to the space either, Dr. Marcus Goff. He's been here many times. Access to the beach is a big deal. Access to the rivers, the waters. He's been the attorney leading that process with Jabem and the activists who are trying really hard to get that done. So no stranger. You know, he's an attorney at law. He's a legal consultant at the Rastafari Mansions and Organizations. He's head of the law department at the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean. He's an attorney at law with over 20 years of experience. He's a former deputy director of the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office and a former law lecturer at the University of Technology, Jamaica, and former lecturer at the UWI Mona Faculty of Law and former lecturer at the Norman Manley Law School. A lot more we can say about Dr. Marcus Goff, but they will be online in a little while. In the meantime, in studio, of course, Sister McDonald and Sister Nani in the studio with us, Sister Karita. Now, so I want to kind of shift a little bit because we understand the issues relating to government's non-response to the RMO at this time, and you're waiting for that. What was the last thing you heard from them, if anything?
Well, the last thing we heard from the liaison officer is that that's why I said there's a little bit of resentment, because it is as if we're kind of upstarts to be trying to make demands, these demandments from the government. And, what we're really saying, is that the government, they need to remember and recognize the fact that they are there to serve rather than to be,
dictators.
Dictators indeed, Yes. And we just need to, we just, the Rastafari community, they have been, we have been, as we know, discriminated, marginalized, etc., etc. However, as Sister Karida alluded to, the Rastafari lingua, colors, all of the intellectual property is part of Brand Jamaica. In fact, they want to tend to overlook the community and just go ahead and use the community, the community's property as part of their brand. And so what is it then? We are being used, we are being exploited, and we are still not recognized. Is it that? Or what else is it then,
I know that Priest Lamont and Dr. Kadamawa Knife should be online. They're not here in the studio yet. So if they're there and Dr. Marcus Goff, let me know. Send them in so we can have them join the conversation. The demandments until they get in.
Sorry, Sister Kabu. Yes. They're not intending to come in studio.
No, I meant online.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
online. Sorry. So I'm kind of coding my telephone operator to send the calls if she's got it. But I don't see them coming in yet. So, but we're holding for that. Let us go then, Sister Carita, to some of what you already raised in this space in speaking with Marlene Malahoo Ford on that program a few weeks ago, which is to look at the submission to the Constitutional Amendment Act. I think it's a good place to go while we come forward to look at some of the vision, the mission, and the governance structure and so on of the RMO.
Give thanks, Sister Kabu. So just to explain very briefly the history or the process behind the demandments. It's a document that has gone through a lot of rounds of consultation. I think that's important, representing the voice of the community. This has been many years, starting from several submissions even made by the Coral Gardens Benevolent Society and other groups, the coalition that was advocating for even the ganja rights and the Nzinga King situation. So these have been several rounds of consultations, bringing together many, many issues that had been maybe dealt with by different stakeholder interest groups. It really represents the wider voice of the community. So in terms of why are we calling for this act? It's because of not only these multiple years of appeals that have largely gone unheard and a sort of tokenistic compensation, because the Ministry of Culture, to give them credit, has supported the victims of Coral Gardens. But to be honest, in terms of, in relation to the level of atrocities and these unfulfilled promises for reparatory justice, to compensate for the discrimination is not there. So the community is really fatigued at this point in time for these issue-based advocacy, the runaround. So this Omnibus Act, which is being now proposed, is to bring together these many, many set of issues in one place and also to have some level of accountability for the different ministries. So there can be a review in a periodic basis to look at where Jamaica has reached on some of these issues.
Just hang on there. Let me just go to the phone lines to welcome our guests who have come in by phone. Dr. Marcus Goff, Dr. Kadamawa Knife, and Honorable Priest Lamont. Are you all there?
Well, yes, I am.
All right. So that sound, I think I heard. All right. So Knife, you there?
Yeah, man. I'm here.
Greetings. And Marcus, you there?
Yes, Kabu.
All right. Welcome. Priest Lamont, you there? All right. So Dr. Marcus Goff, Dr. Kadamawa Knife online. All right. Yes. Go ahead, sis.
But it's a good time to even maybe bring in Dr. Marcus, because, one of the points I was making was that the importance of this act is also trying to pull out from, irrelevant places where some of this legislation is placed, like the Dangerous Drug Act, So the Rastafari community believes strongly that the sacrament of ganja should not be something that is, included within a Dangerous Drug Act. But, Brother Marcus knows, especially on the ganja issues, what are some of the things that are incorporated within the act that we are proposing.
Yes, Marcus?
Yes, well, yes, the issue of the recognition and protection of Rastafari, recognition in terms of recognition as a collective entity, with collective rights, distinct from other entities in the society and the legal system, and then recognition of those rights, the various aspects of what those rights are, is important. So the constitutional framework would set the groundwork for recognition of community rights, indigenous rights, or if you don't say, let's say community rights, and then you have the Rastafari Act giving more focus or detail as to what those community rights are. And so certainly ganja, full protection of the right to that sacrament and what that means. But we still have, of course, in the law, areas where Rastafari continue they kick that after so much struggle, after so much suffering and targeting, and now to see the law change in that respect, the Rastafari rights are supposed to be prioritized and fully protected, so we can really express ourselves fully within that relationship with the herd. It's not that the law that needs to be changed or consider a new legal framework outside of the Dangerous Drugs Act, that properly respects even the plant itself and its sacredness to the Rastafari, And then other rights that are included, of course, are given intellectual property rights. Rastafari community has evolved so much cultural contribution, so whether it's the colors and the language, expression, of course, the music art form, and so a lot of that is, as you know, throughout the world, globalized, very popularized, and of course, very much commercialized without any benefit to the Rastafari community.
And the point that Rastafari is making on this particular issue is in terms of the submission to the Constitution Amendment Act. And I know there's also another document, which is, I think this was sent to the ministry. What the point Rastafari is making is what on this, Dr. Goff?
On the constitutional aspect?
On the intellectual property.
Oh,
right.
There was a recent...
That as part of the constitutional protection, the legal protection of the Rastafari community, that there would need to be also laws that are specifically, focusing on facilitating the stoppage of commercialization without the authorization and benefit, of the community. And that needs some legal structure as well. So the Rastafari Act, in that vein, would similarly try to ensure that the laws are robust enough to be able to empower the authorities to assist the Rastafari community to, as much as possible, ensure authentic usage of the colors and the language and so forth, and also to facilitate the economic empowerment for the Rastafari community through those structures.
Mm-hmm. So the point you were saying?
I was just really bringing it down to kind of a day-to-day awareness level that there's a lot of now conscious promotion and marketing of Rastafari, I would say Rastafari influenced products, and so there's importance that this is addressed so that, the similar situation that happened in the ganja industry where Rastafari was not acknowledged, was not adequately provided for. So you have dispensaries that are, run by rich overseas interests, and the Rastafari community that was the backbone of the industry is sidelined. Mm-hmm. So similar aspects can take place even within products that are branded Rastafari. And this is a very important junction now to ensure that similar takeover, even though it might embrace Rastafari, where is the shared, sharing of benefits for this?
And I saw in the document where even the language is mentioned, because so much has been misappropriated, if you will, from Rastafari without even consideration of the group itself. It's laughable if it wasn't so serious. Dr. Naif, you are consulting on business development within the RMO. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that. What does that entail in terms of your own specific mandate?
All right, let me just start by saying, this discussion just speaks to the kind of hypocrisy and integral dishonesty within the Jamaican space. Because what we find in Rastafari is not just the Rastafari, it's a general practice by the status quo in terms of how them deal with the broader population. Mm-hmm. See, so it's not that them don't understand what needs to be done. But this is not a part of them thinking and them priorities. Mm-hmm. The status quo has never sought to empower people. As a matter of fact, this empowerment of the majority actually serves the agenda within the status quo. And I'm going to tell you why the hypocrisy is there. If you look through all of these documents, I'm going to link back to the business element. Mm-hmm. If you look through all the documents that Jamaica has signed on the global platform, if you look at the vision of the country, say the sustainable development goals, where it says ending zero hunger, ending zero poverty, ideas of inclusivity, mainstreaming, where it the vulnerable groups. If you look at the vision statement, that's about people being empowered. if you look at the strategy developed by the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports, the Culture and Creative Industry Strategy, if you look at the policies that they had written for the government, the last 2 policies in the MSME sector, micro, small, enterprise sector, we emphasize all of these things. We are speaking about advancing what is called the orange economy to the culture and creative space. We are speaking about advancing silver economy for persons who are age. All these things are reflected in the creed of Rastafari. But nothing is done by the state. It's not the Jamaica state, but by the Caribbean state. So you find that the status quo, the regional status quo, have zero interest, I think, across both political parties in empowering people who are disenfranchised. No, so Rastafari have to embrace its own philosophy of self-reliance and collective security.
Yes.
And so while we think it is important to engage the state, it is not extremely necessary to do so, because Rastafari have been doing your stuff and thing without the support of the state. And that's why they come together, Rastafari mansions. It's crucial because I am seeing that amongst ourselves we have all the skill sets that we require to move our country forward and a nation forward. And we also have the brand and global recognition to create our own businesses. So in essence, what we are doing is providing an opportunity for the state to partner in a genuine way. So that the dependency upon the state, so we need to get that in them head very clearly. Rastafari is not dependent on no state or no government for its liberty.
To the extent that the state does not respond and understanding what is being
offered.
What is being offered, which I think is a great word.
Yes.
Where is intersectionality? Because it seems to me that, as you've said, I mean, what is the strongest indigenous response to oppression and slavery and colonization coming out of anywhere in the Caribbean? It is Rastafari. So Rastafari has been Rastafari. But to the extent that they do not respond, how does it impact the mandate and what the RMO wants to do?
You know, we have to learn from previous experiences. The reason people fought against Marcus Garvey, not because of the philosophy, but because of the move towards creating economic independence and self-reliance.
Yes.
So if a state is not responding, you need to focus on generating your own wealth. You can speak all you want to speak about social development and about politics. If you don't have the resources to effect the changes, people can always ignore you. So in reality, if Rastafari had a stronger economic force, you would not need to be approaching the state. The state to be approaching, just as though they approach all these people and like to beg money from, they'll be doing that. So I'm saying we need to focus on this business element. And the business proposal that we developed, you know, just called a theory of change, has 3 key elements. 1, the business of ganja. I use the word ganja specifically as against using marijuana and cannabis. I don't know if I have time to make the distinction.
Yeah, make the distinction.
2,
make the distinction.
Agriculture. Well, as far as I say ganja, we look at ganja as an ital plant. I say cannabis and marijuana are things that have been tampered with and therefore can be classified as they have classified it as drugs. And there's a really important reason for us to make that distinction, because we recognize that there are so many issues emerging regarding the consumption of cannabis and marijuana. I mean, even health impacts and impacts on the environment. So when we look at developing our own ITAL standard, we give you all the framework and the clauses that you need to abide by for it to be classified as ITAL herb. And that also gives us a very kind of unique differentiation strategy when you're actually making products that are going out there, because the ITAL standard will be above what is called the organic standard. So if you think about marketing the product, persons who have this awareness about health and the environment are going to link into are going to be a part of your market sales. But even people who are not so tuned on that might just still want to buy because they're saying it's going to be the cleanest product. So one has to be ganja. The second one surrounding agri-enterprises. I know the crucialness of agri-enterprises, not just because of Rastafari philosophy, but in terms of the broad market space that is there and the amount of things that are linked into the value chain. And also the fact that Rastafari has always been associated with agriculture. When we speak of clean, feed, clothes and shelter yourself. I want to talk about health, wealth, and other forms of security as well. And the third component within that will be to monetize the intellectual property component. Of course, Marcus is the lead, one of the lead in the region on the IP element. You know, so I'm arguing that as Rastafari people, the first thing we need to do, I mean, and you must understand, I'm not somebody who will be observing a law that don't make any sense. That's how I am, and Rastafari is always like that. We need to be planting ganja and selling ganja, that waiting on no state and no what you call license or anything like that. Because I've been doing it before without being dependent upon the state, and we weren't doing that. Rastafari would not exist. If we were trying to wait in a state and to follow our law to get the things done, what we have done, we would not have done. Coming out into that idea of waiting on the government, they're always at a point of trying to play catch up.
Where does the market come in now? Because is this where the state has to get involved, or do you go around the state just the same?
Not in reality, the market size, it depends on where you're targeting. Because before you try to sell ganja overseas, my thinking is that you need to focus on what happens in the local space. You need to get out of that thinking which says that when you're going to move an industry forward, you need to get into an export market. Why get into an export market when you're not even satisfying the demands of the local market? I think even more importantly, Rastafari have a responsibility to ensure that people in Jamaica get access to good, clean agriculture products, whether it be ganja or food, because we know what is happening with agriculture and ganja in the region. They're killing people with these things.
Of course. And so then, and especially against the backdrop of what we see happening over the last few years with what they're now calling medicinal herbs, where Rastafari has been excluded to a large extent from that industry.
That has been a deliberate attack. Those things are deliberate. People, remember, we are people who work with states across the world. People know exactly what they're doing. If they wanted to build the ganja industry, it would have been done properly. When they wanted to build tourism, they created the Tourism Act. When they wanted to build housing on the NHD, they created an NHD Act. When they wanted to deal with skill set, they created a Heart Act. When they wanted to support alternative tourism, they created the Tourism Enhancement Fund. And we know that when they're going to build an industry, incentivize that industry and build out the ecosystem. None of that has been done. Even the way they have structured the thing in terms of the CLA, they go and create a regulatory organization to build business. They create a regulatory organization to control how things are operated. How do you build a business? It takes other kinds of systems to do so. And ganja has not been integrated in any of those business areas. Whether it be in agriculture, which is anchored through the Ministry of Agriculture, rather, but it has been in the MSME. I remember I just wrote the policy. There's nothing in the MSME ecosystem that speaks to ganja. Even though ganja by far has been the most successful agriculture export from Jamaica. So it is something that is deliberate. And you find
deliberate, of course,
that many of those people who are in the parliament are also established their own businesses.
Yes.
In ganja.
It is a shame of it.
You know? Man says they say the same strategy.
Oh yeah. Dr. Marcus Goff, what are the challenges, legal challenges here, and also to say the demandments regarding what we just heard Dr. Knife lay out?
Right. So essentially what we want is equality. We want equality in a context whereby the decades of discrimination can be eradicated and repaired. So that also means then, we talk about repair, it means essentially reparation, you know? And so that's what we have built out in terms of reparations for those who are in school, because we still have discrimination in school with lack of vaccination requirements that sometimes bar us, you know, unfairly. We have employment issues where one still being discriminated against in the employment situation where it comes to things like, again, grooming policy, beard and lock and hair and such. You know, and
so we're talking about situating this within the internal reparations conversation.
Most definitely, because we talk about reparations and we say act as if we can't and have not and should not have done a lot more for a long time.
To what extent is this represented on that platform, though? Because I know the National Reparations Council is pretty active. To what extent are these issues, and who's representing from the RMO at the council, National Council? Is your sister Nanny?
Yes. Dr. Barnett is part of the RMO, part of the advocacy committee, and he's also on the National Council of Reparations. However, you know, I think based upon, I'm not thinking now, this is what they have demonstrated. It is a talking shop.
Yes, it is.
Because even the organization that Dr. Barnett is representing, the Leonard Howell Foundation, no reparations.
Well, the Leonard Howell Foundation is not a Rastafari.
Well,
is it?
Well, they are representing the first Rasta man.
Well, I understand that, but is it representing Rastafari, or is it? I don't know. I'm just asking.
Yes,
At no time did I ever think it was
representing the issue of reparations, giving back some land.
Sister Nani said no, sister. It's what it sounds to me that is where the problem is, and I know I'm going to get in trouble for it.
Okay.
But who's representing Rastafari at the National Council on Reparations?
Well, you have Dr. Jelani Naya.
Okay.
You have Dr. Barnett. Those are the two ones that I know.
And Dr. Jelani is representing which Rastafari group?
Not a particular group.
Is the RMO? Who's representing the RMO on the council?
No one is really representing the RMO because the RMO is not yet recognized by the government as such. So the members of the National Council, they are chosen by the government, particularly from...
Bert Samuel is the vice chair of the National Reparations Council. Bert, there is nobody from the RMO at the National Council on Reparations, and I think that is something that is lacking. But go ahead. So the issues are not necessarily represented from, because is this document from the RMO at the council? Are people seeing this document?
Well, Dr. Barnett has it. So I don't know to what extent he has shared it with the I think he has shared it with the other members. But you see, the fact now, remember, Sister Kabu, the government does not recognize the RMO, because what happened is that they were saying the first time we had to write to them. It is when Minister Grange announced that they intend to set up a secretariat for Rastafari. So we said, we wrote to them and pointed out, reminding them of our existence and reminding them of how many organizations we represent and are part of the umbrella, and that we act as a secretariat for the Rastafari.
So do we now have a secretariat of Rastafari? Because I saw that in the document and I was flabbergasted. I didn't know we had a Rastafari secretariat. Was that ever set up?
Well, since we have written to them, we haven't heard anything from that side about setting up one, because we have declared that the RMO is here and we are representing.
I think it's also important, Sister Kabu, for maybe Dr. Marcus would be the best place to just give a quick overview of the process of intended engagement and representation from the Rastafari community even within the ganja space. There's been a lot of
with where?
Within the legal discussions around ganja.
Okay, so did you hear that, Marcus? All right, so but hold on, Marcus, because I do have to take a break, and I think Priest Lamont might be online. Priest, are you there?
Yes, Honorable, I'm here.
Okay, great. I'm hearing you too. We're all hearing Priest? Okay, brilliant. I was a little bit concerned because you're coming through a whole different line, but thank you so much. Hold on.
All right.
Phone lines and to my very special guest in studio. So in studio, Dr. Kheru MacDonald, Sister Nani Williams, on the phone lines, Honorable Priest Lamont, Dr. Marcus Goff, Dr. Kadamar with Knife. And let me just say good morning again and greetings to Priest Lamont. Priest, greetings.
Greetings, Sister Kabu.
Yes, and I know you'll be... Okay, welcome. I know that you have been listening carefully, so do you want to make a comment on what we've said so far before I go to Dr. Goff to respond to the point that was raised just now by Sister Kheru, and then we come back to you, of course.
All right, thank you very kindly, Sister Kabu. I want to mention briefly two things that were talked about. When you ask about the signing of our constitution, if the 12 tribes of Israel are signed or the Nyabingi House. Mm-hmm. I just want to add something to what was said, that, though they have not signed, we have to call them inaugural members of the RMO. They were there from the onset. Mm-hmm. They might not have signed. I would never detract anything from them when it comes to their support.
Yes.
They have always supported. Mm-hmm. In our functions, we have had Sister Diana and Ras Ashton. We have spoken with them. They have given their blessings for the RMO. The Nyabingi is there. It was mentioned that they have observer status. I don't even know what that means, because they are integrally interwound in all that we do.
Yes, and the point is well taken. But 12 tribe and Nabi going to need to sign the document because that is always going to be there. Sign the document. That's all I'm saying. All right. So because we have just a few minutes before we go to the Cash Supreme Ventures draw, so let's just go quickly to Dr. Goff because I'm not sure if they're going to come back after. But Dr. Goff and Dr. Knife. But the point you raised again, just remind us the question that you said Dr. Goff should be able to respond to, Sister Kheru.
It was really trying to raise visibility for the attempts to engage as Rastafari within government directives.
Yes.
And so I think there's a lot of experience there that needs to be.
All right. Go ahead, Dr. Goff.
Okay. Well, just to share that, concerning ganja, from even before the amendment in 2015, that we have been engaged with the Ministry of Justice, to discuss what this is going to look like and should look like. And, we didn't get to perfect agreement, but as we see, the Act has some things in there for us. So when that was passed, April 2015, the Ministry of Justice established a Rastafari Advisory Board, not required by law, but established by the Minister to kind of advise, in terms of the ways he has to exercise his rights and responsibilities under the Dangerous Drugs Amendment Act. And so since then we have an engagement. In 2016, with the change of election, then, we saw that advisory board not required by law was not re-established. And then in that changeover, we've not had that kind of, in the early times of the court administration, that relationship. But then more recently, through our advocacy, we've been having that kind of engagement more regularly with the Ministry of Justice. We've been able to see where we've been able to have Rastafari rights protected, in increments. And so the right to cultivate, very important. We've had that, incorporated, and several spaces have been cleared and approved by the ministry for cultivation for Rastafari economical purposes, and we're in discussion to have the Ministry of Justice also be able to liaise with the Commissioner of Police to have the force order to include some kind of, directive as it relates to Rastafari rights under the Drugs Amendment Act. And so that kind of respectful engagement, we want but to have it entrenched, not left up to the prevailing minister or so forth, but really something that is entrenched, as it was previously mentioned, broad into the interministerial, not just strictly within one area of ganja, but look at all the areas where Rastafari continue to be discriminated against.
Yes.
And marginalized, and give that the governmental responsibility in that resolution.
Dr. Knife, I saw the documents where one of the demandments included the need, in reference to the Secretariat, but even outside of that, for a desk at the least, or a presence in the office of the Prime Minister. Am I right? In the office of the Prime Minister. Your own thinking on that, against the background that I hear you saying that Rastafari does have the will and, well, the ability at least, and the power to move and to do outside of those spaces. How important do you think it is for that kind of a presence at a secretariat level, and in particular a presence within the office of the Prime Minister?
I think those are primarily signaling from the state as well that the really is an inclusive approach is what they argue that they're going to do. But at the same time, again, I also know that people in a status quo only invite persons to their table when they think that they can't do without them. And that is how the state actually operates. So while again we are presenting this opportunity for that inclusivity, if they delay and choose not to, and as Rastafari will just continue to do what we're doing in a more organized and structured way, so it become more impacting and effective. And what I mean by that, for example, we're going to put together this ITAR stand. We're doing it now. And the ITAR stand is both for ganja and agriculture. As Rastafari people, we have been, myself and others have been writing all these proposals for community development for many non-Rastafari organizations. And we could not have done that for Rastafari because the structure that was required, we just didn't have. But now we have that structure. And so we're going to do our own bootstrapping in terms of those who have funds, get involved in the business, those who don't, we were writing these proposals to the regional funding agencies, international funding agencies, even local funding agencies, because what people don't realize is that when we speak to these agencies, whether it be JBDC, TEF, or EFJ, all those people know the importance of and are willing to. So the problem is not with the institutions themselves. The problem itself is in the parliament with the people who are MP and the ministers. So I want it to be very clear. Rastafari don't have a challenge with state institutions. Rastafari have a challenge, I find, with people who are elected representatives and those who are ministers, who have their own thinking and their own agenda across both political parties. So I'm seeing a trajectory where I have no impediment in terms of moving the development agenda forward. But it will be good though for us as a nation to signal that we are truly and honestly promoting inclusivity.
Mm-hmm.
So it is necessary, but not sufficient for us to be at the table. And even when I say it is necessary, I still know that outside of that relationship, just as Rastafari has been doing it, just as though other groups of people who are disenfranchised have been doing it, we will continue to do it, but we are going to do that more orderly, standardized, and regularized fashion so it can become more impacting. And the point I was making is that we have all the human resources that we need in terms of the skill set. You know what I mean? There's no doubt about the kind of skill set in Rastafari. You know, we also have access to certain resources amongst Rastafari people. And let me end by saying, come on, you see, you can't expect enslaved mind to serve free people. And those persons who are talking about reparations, they be international, locally. Their interest is not in getting reparations for the mass of the people, you know. The reparations they're thinking about is about it going to the state.
Well, yes, and that's I think that's a very good point to make, and this is why we're going to have a part 2 of this conversation, and I hope that Dr. Knife and Dr. Goff can make it in the studio as much as it is early morning. Dr. Goff, thank you so much, Dr. Knife. I know we're going to wrap with you both now, but we have just a minute, Dr. Goff. Bearing in mind what Dr. Knife just said, I think it's critical then for us to get a word from you regarding the constitutional reform, because he says the problem is not necessarily the institutions, the problem is with the parliament. So this speaks to the heart of a constitutional amendment.
Yes, most certainly. I mean, the fact is that, you know, the law, the colonial laws, is what have been used historically, right, to keep Rastafari and persons who are anti-colonial outside of the legal framework, essentially, you know. And so the same law has to now be decolonized in a way that can properly recognize and protect and respect those rights. So to have the crown and you know, the trademark of successors have all political and legal power, and their, you know, their employees is a problem. We need to look at how we can, struct these institutions and the Rastafari, including as a part of and rights being recognized and attributed to these communities by Rastafari. Because of course, as we know, if you empower Rastafari, you empower the whole of the people in Jamaica and the Caribbean.
And I want to have a deeper conversation with both of you later on. Also, Marcus, about the laws that are still on the book, but also about the recent rulings that have impacted Rastafari, like the one to do with locks in school and what we heard from the Minister of Constitutional Affairs and so on, because those are still there.
Still there.
Which. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Knife. Thank you so much, Dr. Marcus Goff. Do they come back or we wrap them? All right. So, but thank you, because we're not going to have much time at the end. Right. So thank you so much, both. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Knife.
Give thanks.
Yeah, man. Give thanks. All right. Give thanks. All right. Time and Ira firm is 8:30, and I think we go to the dashboard draws. Live online. Asadanaka, my brother, how you doing?
Yes, I'm there, Mama. And to the people with that Naki Wheeler, that's the new spin on the thing, you know?
It's a new spin on the thing. But you didn't tell me that. But there you go, Naki Wheeler. Welcome to the space.
Yes, I.
Welcome to the space.
Yeah, giving thanks.
Yeah,
how are you?
I'm good. If you two are good, my brother.
Greatness.
All right, brilliant. Look here now. Rootsman Skanking. It's that time of year again. 78th Earth Day celebrations or celebrations of the man himself, Jabi Bunny Wailer. What's up with that this year?
Well, this year, it's a trinity of events. We start on April 9th. That is the Wednesday, a symposium. It's going to be happening at UWI, Huey Mona, the theme from Black Hard Man to Rock and Groove. You know, Black Hard Man, your favorite album.
Yes.
Rock and Groove is the dance, and you know, so it's talking about the duality of Jabi. Featuring Dr. Kadamawi Knife. You don't know man like Clive McKenzie.
Yes.
Dr. Barnett, a lot of respected luminaries will be there. We'll be screening the Rootsman Skanking music video that was released a month ago. And then leading into the 10th, which is the birthday, we'll start with a firelight bingy with the great Urchin Smith and the Bingy Straw down in the Trenchtown there.
Yes.
We'll be also opening the Bunny Whaler exhibition at the Culture Yard Museum. So that's a Trenchtown event. And then that is closed with the live show, Rootsman Skanking live at Team HQ. That's 3 Greenvale Ave off Mullines Road. Right where Bert step on Mullines Road, they make that left.
Right.
And that will be backed by the Solomonic Orchestra. We have Leroy Sibbles, Bushman, Andrew Tosh. I hear Naki Whaler will be there. Maruta Farah, all of our great artists will be there. And you don't know that that's going to be a vibe. That is the yearly show. This is our 8th edition on the 78th.
Long time that's a Bushman. That's a Bushman on the list here. Yeah, man. Morning,
Yes,
Bushman. Yes, so, and this is gonna be on April
10th. So this is on the birthday. Yeah.
Right.
So the symposium is on the 9th, the day before, and then all the other events is on the 10th. And of course, we're partnering with Original Dancehall Thursdays, so that will be the after party.
And all of this for the 78th Earth Strong.
Yes,
for the man himself, Bunny Whaler. The symposium is happening where?
The symposium is happening on the 9th at 5:30 to 8:30. This is at N1 at UE.
Okay, at UE, N1. And then the stage show.
The stage show is the next day on Jabi's birthday, April 10th, and that's at 3 Greenvale Ave. That's 3 Greenvale Ave off Mullines Road.
Right.
That's Team HQ.
Right. All right. So we did that for the trifecta. Thank you so much, my brother.
Thank you so much, man.
Enough love.
Yes, I auntie. Enough love.
Give thanks.
I find myself growing.
And we're going to be going back to our discussion with my very, very special guests in studio. Sister Kheru. My bad. Sister Kheru is in studio as we speak. Also, Sister Nana Williams. And this morning, we're looking at advance of the Rastafari Nation, demandments for a Rastafari Act. On the phone lines is the Honorable Priest Lamont. So let me welcome you all back and go straight to Priest Lamont. Priest Lamont, you there? All right. I think he is, but I'm not hearing. Oh, yes. There you are.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right. One of the things I really want to mention before we go further is repatriation. As I heard mentioned earlier about reparation.
Yes.
And formally, when we talk about repatriation, we used to say repatriation with compensation. But as we go along, we hear now about compensation being changed to reparations.
No, so that again. Sorry, priest. Sorry to interrupt you. Say that again. That we used to say.
We used to say repatriation with compensation.
Yes.
And because we never used to use the word reparation so much in those days.
Okay, I see what you mean.
It was compensation. Now, in modern time they say reparation, and of course we are made to know now that when we say reparation is a part of that reparation.
But priest, listen, priest, because, I've been in this space since 1990. And before this space, I was at JBC Radio Northeast. And so, I've been in this business from a picnic. And I've had many conversations with Rastafari before I even entered the media space as a student at St. Mary High School. Just Rastafari was my project, One thing I know, though, and I hear the point you're making, but one thing I know is that, generally speaking, Rastafari has pushed back against taking from the state or from the enslaver or from the oppressor. So it was always repatriation. And there was an angst against any form of compensation. As a matter of fact, I know that I fought hard in this space in particular, Junior Manning and the team over time, to say But Coral Gardens, there has to be, Sister Nanny is there has to be compensation. There has to be compensation. And I remember the day when Junior Manning half accepted compensation because Rastafari generally wanted nothing from the state. So I want to put that out there, because I know you might be responding to something I said last week, which is that Rastafari was never about compensation from the state. It was a Pan-African groups. But because we said this space is a space of speaking truth to power, and because we see the extent to which so much has been distorted, I had to respond to that. I hope you get the point I'm making. But this is my own lived experience. Just fighting to get Rastafari to the space where Rastafari said that, yes, Coral Gardens compensation. We led a march of hundreds of thousands, up on the Parliament of Jamaica for that compensation and recognition of the massacre at Coral Gardens. We fought for the Coral Gardens Benevolent Society, modeled of the Winifred Benevolent Society. So understanding that within that space, there had to be compensation. So I am standing on that. I said it last week and I'm saying it again this week because there's so much truth around Pan-Africanism. There's so much truth around Rastafari that we don't have to bend it. You get the point I'm making? Yeah.
Of course.
All right. So, but go ahead. Yeah.
And I want to say that one of the reasons, though, that we don't see more about repatriation now, because as you said, we never even talk about wanting anything. We wanted just to go home.
Yes.
But in the now, we are not seeing that amount of impression on going home. Most of the talk is about reparation, and that is about the money, the value, the material.
Yeah. But there's repatriation. Sorry to interrupt. There's repatriation in the 10-point plan, though,
Yes.
Is it that you're saying that you need? And that is why maybe we come back to the point we were making earlier, which is the representation of the RMO, for example, on the council, the National Reparations Council, because I think outside of that, then great work, Michael Barnett, great work, Jelani, but outside of that comprehensive representation, then you'd still be falling short. Am I right or wrong?
Yes, I think I agree with you, Sister Kabu. There's a statement that the stone that the builder refused shall be the head of the corner.
Yeah.
And what we need the government to realize, or the state, is that they need Rastafari. Even though they might say that, well, maybe your vote don't count or whatever, but the influence and the impact on the community internally and internationally.
Yeah.
They need us, and they have been using our influence, benefiting in terms of Brand Jamaica, as we said. Now, there are governments in Africa that have offered land.
Yes.
I particularly went to Tanzania and received thousands of acres of land. Now, the problem, though, is that we need resources to develop the land. And you also need a state-to-state discussion in terms of, the arrangements that for resettlement. Yes. All right. Yes. And that is what we have put in our demandments. Yes.
So that's one of the demands. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So really, what we're saying is the influence of Rastafari within local communities. Crime will. In fact, Dr. Chang at one point even made that speech about the impact of Rastafari in that regard. So really, it is for them just to recognize the impact, and they recognize it, but they have to be more respectful and bring us to the table, in the discussions, any discussion, particularly on repatriation.
Yes, so that even though you say there's representation at that level where this discussion is taking place, that is, there are two Rastafari within that space, representing Rastafari issues, that there needs to be a more official, if you will, or what am I?
What we're
missing?
saying is that the RMO is here. Those representatives were chosen by the government prior to the formation of the RMO.
Okay, yeah, because they've been there for a while.
Right. So the RMO is here. We want.
And it's not to say get rid of them. It's that they are representing
the community,
right?
In their
but at
own,
the same time, there's a more unified representation.
Right.
To what extent have that issue been brought to the attention of? Because this is this is the Ministry of Culture. So that's in the letter.
Yes.
So this is culture.
I think it's in the demandments as well.
And the demandment. I really wanted us to go through the demandments because I read them and they made a difference to me. So if we could take a 5 minutes or 7 minutes to go through the demandments. I think for our listeners, I know the Rastafari community probably have seen these circulated, but for the wider listener, the Pan-African community and our wider audience globally and nationally, it really does make a difference when you go through these demandments, when you read them, to see how they connect with just the thinking of what is due to and what should be done for and with Rastafari in Jamaica. So if we could go through some of those. Not all of them.
Kabu, yes. So in keeping with Dr. Nice's comments that, the Rastafari has an agenda outside of an advocacy agenda within the state.
Mm-hmm.
We set that down. We know that there's development committees, there's development actions, ITA certification, ganja plantation, standards, IP generation and protection.
Mm-hmm.
But these things to do with protection of rights on a day-to-day basis is what we are talking about, because it's violation of human rights. It's a human rights violation issue.
Yeah.
When we talk about educational facilities, all levels need to be prohibited from barring or expelling Rastafari children from schools or subjecting them to discrimination in relation to any aspect of their culture. Wearing dreadlocks, vaccinations, religious education, and the fact that there are Rastafari holidays which need to be recognized if a child needs to be absent from school. Health facilities, we know that there's specifics around medical, reproductive, healing, diet, and personal care that have specific preferences of Rastafari, and that these need to be acknowledged and respected. There needs to be acknowledgement that once the patient is in the care of the health facility, if the patient is indisposed, there needs to be some kind of, acknowledgement and discussion with the family so that there can be honoring of those preferences of the Rastafari patients. We know of the specific case of Bingi Irie Lion, whose precepts were trimmed against his knowledge, against the will, and in absence of the family. So this is a case where it happens on a more regular basis, but this was a specific case that is against the,
egregious.
And so these things are taken lightly, but it's not a light thing for the family, for the community who keep these things as sacred. Non-discriminatory employment policies. So the management of any corporation, any institution needs to be accountable for ensuring that there's zero tolerance of prejudice and discrimination, as they would for any other kind of human being. In terms of cultural education and preservation on a developmental side, given all that has been said in this program about the influence of Rastafari, it is high time that the government facilitates that even in schools of the general public, that there can be a more opportunity to learn about a group of persons within their society, that persons flock from all over the world to come here and to see.
Yes.
They're not coming to see necessarily other things.
And the image of Rastafari is what you use to invite the global community
absolutely
to come in for tourism.
But there's also cultural sensitivity that has to be observed. We can't have in the interest of highlighting and embracing the Rastafari symbols and emblems, that you have cultural insensitivity, like putting a dreadlocks with red, gold, and green locks onto a rum buckle You know, I mean, there's so many examples.
Or a jerk card. I see it. I see it.
So,
and we see how it is being used, for example, in Japan and in Thailand and so on, without any kind of sensitivity. But when you see that in Jamaica, it really...
Yeah, man, we can do better than that.
It gets your goat.
We can do better than that. Definitely.
Yeah.
So, you know, having cultural heritage sites that can be used to positively display the legacy of Rastafari, to rectify historical inaccuracies, and to just have Rastafari who are brought in to give education and elevation to the Rastafari movement.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole aspect around in the act and in this the set of demandments around cultural education and preservation of Rastafari.
Mm-hmm.
The restorative justice, I'll just say to Sister Nani, maybe some of these things, because these are issues that the Coral Gardens Benevolent Society has been advocating for many, many years.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we have been advocating for the state compensation to the survivors. That is still ongoing. But in terms of scholarships for the children of Rastafari who have been excluded, marginalized over the years, we are asking for them for consideration to be given, that because now particularly tertiary education is so expensive that we if you want to, you know, address some of the past discrimination, then, you know, atrocities indeed as well. So land tenure, now it comes to the land tenure. We recognize that you know, land is required for agricultural purposes, for even in the community. Ones have been asking for a particular space be provided for burial sites, right? We in the Rastafari Coral Gardens Benevolent Society identified land, 2 lots of land. I'm sure you remember us talking about that.
I am looking at you because I want to ask, just waiting on you to finish to say, is this the same land argument?
2 lots of land that Minister Green spoke about in Parliament from 2018. Last year, Dr. Chang came to our commemoration and promised that those 2 lots of land would be, he was standing on one of the lots.
I think you should begin to disinvite politicians from those gatherings and let them deal with it through the offices without fear or favor, you know, because you come there and you promise.
By June.
How many years is this, Nancy?
This has been going on from 2018 when Minister Grange announced it in Parliament. And last year, Dr. Chang came and said the deeds for the land would be handed over by June of last year. And now we are coming down to the crunch for another commemoration.
No, you're coming down to the election.
We are not hearing anything. We are not hearing anything.
And as you talk about coming down to the crunch for another commemoration, I know we're going to go back to the thing, but just to remind our listeners that the Rastafari Coral Gardens Benevolent Society celebrating 10-year anniversary of the formation of the Benevolent Society, and that's going to happen on Friday, April 18, and it's going to be part of the whole commemoration of the Coral Gardens, the survivors. And the strength and fortitude and resilience of Rastafari is what Rastafari remembers every Bad Friday. So that's going to happen on the 18th of April. And as usual, so this is going to be at Walter Fletcher Beach this time.
Yes.
In Montego Bay. Mutabaruka will be there. DYCR will be there. So that in addition to the usual, because there's always performances, but this year there's also, as usual, a speakers forum. Dr. Karida McDonald, who is in studio right now, she will be there, so you'll hear more about this. Dr. Marcus Goff, who was on the line, he will be there, so you'll hear more about the legal, constitutional issues. Dr. Michael Barnett, who sits on the National Council for Reparations, he will be there. Ras Iggy, it's Iggy?
That's Iggy, yes.
Iggy.
He will be our museum guide.
So that's Iggy, and of course Sister Nani will be there, and we'll tell you more about that as we go along. I suppose IRFM will be there as usual.
Yes.
For this for this thing. Yes. All right, for this commemoration. All right. So just to go back, Sister Nancy.
In terms of the land.
Yes, in terms of the land. I am flabbergasted. I'm telling you the truth. I really don't know what to say, and I'm not often lost for words. I am just totally out of words.
Yes.
That this
because
issue,
this is a company. This is they have promised, they have recognized it, and it doesn't cost them anything. It is government land. And they know that we want to on one lot. It is to have a permanent elder care facility, which we are currently temporarily running on rented premises. And Minister Grange herself, when the Prince Hermias was here, she announced we had a reception at the elder care facility, and she announced that the government is going to assist the community to build the permanent elder care facility, not only for the survivors but for the Rastafari community, because we know a lot of our members are moving on into stages of elders, and the other lot would be used for the Office of the Benevolent Society. We have told them that we want to do a permanent museum and a cultural center, so that children from schools, whenever they are doing their research, they will have a home there, that we can educate them about the Rastafari movement. And all of that is recognized and restated, but has not been delivered. So there we go.
This is, if you really think about it, the ask sound big, but it's not really big,
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about the Office of the Prime Minister, really all it takes is to have a monthly or bi-monthly meeting. There will be these list of issues. All of them, there's nothing that is inappropriate or far-fetched or unwarranted.
Barbados, which is a much smaller nation, had what you're asking for in terms of the desk at the Office of the Prime Minister, the recognition of Rastafari.
That's all. It's a simple request.
It's pretty easy, actually.
Yeah. And it's a set of issues that are, imagine going to a Supreme Court to ask if it is okay to bar a child from school and to get a positive response. No, man, we have to move from this barbarity.
If for anything, it just don't look good. And this is the thing about it, is that, when these issues are carried further into the global spaces, this is when people begin to run. But it don't have to get to that extent where people are going into the international media, where people are going to Amnesty International, where people are going to the United Nations.
Yes,
it doesn't have to be like that. We can make these decisions right here on the ground. Priest Lamont, what is this hold up? Is it that Rastafari has been too easy on the powers that be? They make the announcements and then they're allowed to just walk away?
Sister Kabu, in recent meetings that we have been having with the advocacy committee, I keep saying that I think we need more presence and a sharper approach to making the system realize that we are more than patient, and we are more than fed up with being sidelined with the things that are happening to us. And we need to get out there sometimes on the street.
All right, hold the line for me. Let me just go for a quick break. My bad, I'm a little bit behind time, but I'm sure that the Office of the Prime Minister, who we're talking about seriously, will forgive me this time. And we're making an appeal to the Office of the Prime Minister, to Minister Andrew Holness, that this is something that you probably, as you did before, that you have to get involved in. Let me take a break.
You didn't know that Jamaica's unemployment rate is at its lowest ever?
African. On the phone lines, Priest Lamont, in studio, Dr. Kheru MacDonald, Sister Nancy Williams, and talking about the advance of the Rastafari nation and demandments for a Rastafari Act. Were you going through the demandments?
Yes, Sister Kabu, because I think the last two were on ganja exemption, and I think Brother Marcus already spoke to that. I think the big point there is about the economic exchange. You know, so far there's a law about the sacramental rights, but sacramental rights without enabling the community to benefit economically from industry that was founded by the community has to change. So that is what is being demanded there. And then on the IP rights, as you heard again, Brother Marcus speaking about the issues of benefit sharing and the issues of trademarking and having ITAL certification for Rastafari produced products so that these can be used to protect the rights, the intellectual property.
In one of the documents I read, there is a point being made about is it Jamaica? What is that? Is that a project or a company? What is that?
Well, this is a project of the JBDC.
Right.
Right.
The JBDC is?
The Jamaica Business Development Corporation. So they are currently running a project called Jamaica, which is collaborating with entrepreneurs who produce Rastafari influenced products. And so we are in discussions with them, and so we are looking forward to.
My understanding is of this that Rastafari is not involved in this. Is that this is?
I think this is where this program, Sister Kabu, is so important because we need media, we need more acknowledgement and recognition of even the Rastafari community that the RMO exists. There have been previous efforts at unification of the Rastafari community. These have benefited even this current initiative. But, you know, important to know now that in this current time, when we have trade wars, when we have all kind of food, security issues, when we have vaccination that is becoming more, demanded by states, there's a lot that for collective security in this time. And so, it's really important now that the wider community, as well as state agencies, are cognizant of the existence of the RMO.
Yeah, in terms of the constitutional reform process, to what extent has the committee reached out to, looked at, and is engaging Rastafari on the constitution, on that document that was submitted?
Well, as you know, for your guest, the minister who was here had promised that, the Rastafari submission would be seriously looked at and that they would be contacting the executive. We've heard nothing, but I'm assuming that it's in a convoluted process. So.
Minister Marlene Malahoo Ford, and to those who are listening who normally care about news, we want you to care about every news you hear this morning. And we want letters from these ministers and from their public relations department writing straight to IRFM complaining about all of this. We are asking you please to tell them that. So you made the... you said you would. It was a promise that you would look at the document, that you would reach out to the RMO. So that hasn't done yet, and I think that I see that you're pretty busy. But at least pass it off to someone so that they can get to the RMO. It's a committee, for crying out loud. So there are others who could look at it. So there is that. So there is more or less no response from any of these spaces?
None of these spaces, none of these entities. So, it's coming up to election. We are ready to talk to any politician, any party side. This is a non-partisan agenda. It is an agenda for the advancement of Rastafari that is well overdue.
Yes. So the issues are out there. The act itself, what's the process of getting this act? Have you looked at that to see what that would entail?
Well, we're looking for a member of parliament who is going to be willing to champion this through the processes. It needs to be taken. There's quite a few steps that have to go through taking it through a bill, and then the consultations that would be needed both internally and externally. So we know it's a process, but meanwhile, the individual issues that are contained in the demandments are there that can be worked on. having an omnibus act is what we're hoping for the kind of interministerial dialogue and action that is required, as we've heard from so many of these cases. It cannot be solved or addressed by any one ministry, and therefore the positioning of this kind of accountability at the office of the Prime Minister that can designate and delegate actions, for the relevant ministries to take forward.
Yes, and that is why in our letter we requested that the Minister of Culture try to start the formation of a committee, an interministerial committee that would be able to address the issues while the processes towards the act would be taking place. But of course, we have not received a response.
I have always wondered, my lived experiences dealing with issues relating to Rastafari, that I've asked myself this question many times, is that so Rastafari tends to reach out to the Ministry of Culture, and the Ministry of Culture tends to embrace Rastafari issue. But I've always wondered if this is the right ministry. If it might be, and this is, I'm pretty serious about this, because this might be, this might be another thing altogether why there's no movement on this. For example, the Ministry of Justice, it might be the ministry, because of the discrimination, the injustices, the laws, everything that has come at Rastafari. It's not necessarily a cultural issue.
It's not. And that is the point. But it's not also just a justice issue. There's a lot of development issues. And
there you go.
Land reform.
That's why you say interministerial.
It has to be. It has to be. These are issues that have gone on so unattended for so long and are so comprehensive. And the need is so great. And the Rastafari just needs to be accounted
So who should
for.
lead that process? Is it the Ministry of Culture?
Well, we have 4 committees within the RMO, sacramental rights being one of them, business development, advocacy, and events. Those are the 4 committees that function. All right. So the Sacramental Rights Committee, we have been meeting with the Minister of Justice for more than 2 years now. And yes,
which minister?
That is Delroy Chuck, Honorable. Yes. So, and in the last meeting,
but Mr. Chuck, it never take on us so long for take fisherman's point from the people. I don't understand.
Yes, yes.
It's easy to take a beach, it's easy to take a river, but it's hard to meet with Rastafari.
The latter meetings,
yes,
he has been signaling that the Ministry of Culture will be taking over these issues. So it is in that vein, and also with
so they are kicking the can down the road. That's basically what's happening here.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Meanwhile, though, the RMO is as we say, acting, going along with our plans.
Yes.
We have implemented Harambee Hall meetings, which are the town hall style thing.
Yes.
Which is and within that segment, the main aim of the Harambee Halls is to reach out to the Rastafari community and to have the participation from them feed forward in 2 ways. Also, we have the vendors, the craft people, the artisans, and they come to the Harambee Hall to display their products and selling in the instances where they can. So we have been doing that. We originally planned for a month to do that on a monthly basis. But challenges we have been facing in terms of logistics and all of that.
In terms of looking at globally to see where other, I'm going to use the word indigenous because I can't find the right word, but other indigenous groups, because Rastafari is, and how these groups are treated through law, by law, and within the national agenda processes, whether it's parliamentary or otherwise. Is there anything that you have seen, looked at, that can guide this process of achieving?
Yes, we have looked at it. Dr. Marcus Goff is particularly interested in that area, and also did research in that area for his PhD.
Yes, he did. That's
right.
true.
So we have been looking at it, but where you have a state that is resistant to even the word indigenous, then, you know...
they do say they have no indigenous people in Jamaica.
Yes, right.
They have said that. And they've said that to the United Nations.
Yes.
It's a very interesting situation.
I think, the Rastafari nation really in Jamaica is a very specific and peculiar one that actually is outside of any prior example. I mean, their examples of history can really help to inform. But, as Rastafari has and will always be, it is an iration unto itself.
Yes. I thought so. I thought as much. And the closest I got to was looking at maybe what I see happening in Canada
with the First Nation.
With the First Nation.
The Aborigines in Australia is another example. But, as I say, there are specific issues of desirous ones for repatriation. So as much as there may be framing of indigenous rights, yes, in terms of being the first ones to be acknowledged as Rastafari, globally. But so, there just needs to be a lot of considerations outside of any, I think, precedent.
As it is now, Priest Lamont, what are the pressing issues relating to the advancement of the Rastafari nation and the demandments for a Rastafari Act? If you were to name them, just say, what's the movement from here?
The movement from here, Sister Kabu, is really for the government, for the system, to be upfront and dignified, recognize that Rastafari is a vital and a valuable part of our life and liberty, and then to be free and willing to treat with our rights and our demand as they have dealt with any other sector that they recognize and respect. Say that,
you're breaking up. Are you moving around?
No, I'm in one space.
Okay, so that's better. Okay, so
all right. Yeah. We are just asking that our situation, our cause, our rights be respected, be treated like other of their respected sectors. We are asking that a regular interface with the Rastafari community through RMO be made possible. There have been talk about, regular meetings, and we have asked for the interministerial meetings. But as we have said, these are being sidelined. It's for them just to be upfront and accept the fact that we are an important part of the brand Jamaica, and to be civil and willing to give us what we deserve, not just to exploit us, because the real aim is that there's a love for what Rastafari has, but there's love for Rastafari, and that is what we are asking them to love us as they love the spin-offs that they are aiming to get from Rastafari. And we are willing to work along with any government that is willing to accept our value and to recognize that value, and to be upfront to say, of course, we are a value. So I think that's basically it.
Yes.
That the things that we are asking for, they are not far-fetched. All the things in the demandments, they are just things that they should have seen that we deserve even before we have to be fighting for them.
It is shocking in a way that the response or the lack of response, that it is so dismissive of Rastafari, because it would seem to me, even if you're going to call people to a table and then say, listen, let's get back to this, but not even to call Rastafari, the RMO, to the table to say, okay, we received your correspondence. Let us have a meeting with your executive. And, to me, it is.
Can I interject you right there?
Yes, go ahead.
Can I interject you?
Yes.
You see, they have called people of their choice.
From the RMO?
No.
Okay.
They have called Rastafari. They have called Rastafari individuals. But these are not individuals that are selected by the Rastafari community. These are individuals that are selected by the government. And so that is the real issue. There is a claim that Rastafari is represented, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
But the real issues and cause of Rastafari, they are not being brought forward by the people that are chosen to represent.
Mm-hmm. So would you say there has been an attempt, or at least more than an attempt, since you're saying these calls are being made, but that there is a policy of divide Rastafari, to rule Rastafari? Would you say that?
Of course there is. Of course there is. And that is why, too, if you listen to what Sister Nani said when she started out, that, their first reference is to our division and our disunity. And they have used that over the years to victimize us. So now they are trying to ignore the enmity that is being put forward, that is present right now. So of course there is still the practice of divide and rule, because if it were not so, they would have recognized that there is a secretariat in the presence of the RMO. They would have recognized that people that they have there to represent Rastafari are not really presenting the Rastafari cause.
So are you saying that there's a deliberate attempt to keep the RMO, which represents the unity of Rastafari, away from these spaces of decision making? Which is
it would have seemed so. It would have seemed so.
Okay. Sister Kabu, just to say, the RMO is new, relatively new. 2 years now?
Yes, 2 years since we have launched it, but 2 years before that, we have been sitting at the table, going through the Constitution. We really wanted to build a proper basis and to familiarize ourselves with the different mansions and organizations. We have done that. So it is close to 4 years since we have been working. However, in terms of public knowledge, it is we launched in 2023 officially, and last year we had our first anniversary. So the public is still not yet fully acquainted with the RMO. So we really are grateful for this opportunity as well, and we want to appeal to individuals, Rastafari out there, who are not affiliated with any organization, that they should become members of. For example, you have the Rastafari Coral Gardens Benevolent Society in St. James. You have the House of Seba in Trelawney. You have the Sugarloaf Peak in St. Thomas. You have the EABIC. And there are so many different angles but they need to be, because you see, His Majesty gave a call, that we should organize and centralize. And if you're not a part of an organization, there is no basis for centralization. And so we are appealing to the Rastafari community to become a part of it, because we're building a nation. And
so many attempts to organize and centralize over time.
Yes.
The RCO, for example. Now we have the RMO.
Yes.
And here we are. How is the RMO different from all of these attempts, from the RCO, through and the processes? You've been there.
We have learned we have learned the lessons, the important lessons from the previous attempts at centralization. Quite a few, perhaps 50% of the membership of the RMO were a part of the RCO. So the experience we have gathered, we are standing on that experience. And the significant difference is that we have gone through a constitution, and we have signed on, the individual organizations have signed on to our constitution, so it is much more formalized now. And,
I remember being at the RCO, the first meeting of the RCO at the Haile Selassie High School, and with all the elders, including the representative that was sent by the Prophet Gad from the 12 tribes of Israel, and that was a big deal, right? So that had represented a change at the time in even how the 12 tribes of Israel was engaging with the wider Rastafari community, because there was this, what was seen to be at the time a standoffishness from the 12 tribes of Israel. I know I'm going to get the calls, but it is what it is, and we recall. We were there as a lived experience. But I remember that meeting, and everybody was there. Every single mansion was represented. And I listened to you this morning and just heard the 14 different representations within it. And it kind of reminds me of what we felt at the formation of the RCO at the time, but this is going to make a difference. But what I'm hearing differently in that is that it's gone way beyond that. So building on the RCO, but it's gone way beyond that to documentation, to demandments for a Rastafari Act, to a submission to the Constitutional Reform Committee, laid out in the way that I know the RCO would have wanted. So I really, honestly, for my own self, think that this is another inflection point, I think, for Rastafari, that, and I'm agreeing with Dr. Knife, that if it can happen outside of them, but it has to happen with them because of some of the legal issues, the constitutional issues that must be dealt with at this time.
You got it there, Sister Kabu. And I think just to build on what Sister Nani was saying in terms of learning lessons and improving governance, one thing that made me interested even in, engaging on a serious level with the RMO is also, in terms of having 3 persons who are representing any portfolio, So this is it's a really broad-based governance structure. And I have to say that a lot of work went on in the 2 years before my engaging. Mm-hmm. And, we have to really respect that work because it's arduous. And it is, so we really must celebrate to know where we reach now in terms of, proper formal processes, documentation, minutes, going from, committees and, further to what Sister Nani said, yes, you can come today or forward to the RMO via an organization and become a member like that, say the artists through ARC, the creatives, the Association of Rastafari Creatives.
Hold on, because I want to just spend some time talking about how you become a member. So let me just take a quick break. Spark in the last 20 minutes or so of the program and advance of the Rastafari Nation and demandments for a Rastafari Act. This is basically what is on the table, demandments for a Rastafari Act. We can't believe that in 2025, Rastafari has to be pushing so hard for a Rastafari Act in Jamaica. And then at the same time, being almost dismissed in the attitude, at least, of the authorities, the ministries, the ministers, the spaces of power that can facilitate this act is dismissive. And it is what it is. So it's the isness of things that we're dealing with. So we have Sister Nani Williams in the studio. Dr. Kirita Mack is in the studio. We spoke earlier to Dr. Marcus Goff and Dr. Kadamawi Knife, and Honorable Priest Lamont is also online. Just as we were going into the break, we were hearing from Dr. Kirita and Sister Nani how one can become a member or be a member of the RMO.
Yes, any existing Rastafari group that has been operating for more than 2 years can apply formally to the RMO for membership, all right? And individual Rastafari members of the community with any special skill sets that they think they can contribute to the RMO, they are also welcome to become a member of one of the committees. Now, the way how we function is that the 14, currently we have 14 members, okay? And each organization sends in 2 representatives. So we have a 28-member administrative board. The administrative board meets once per month, and after a year, we have an annual general meeting. We had one in October, November to look at the performances of the members. Now the administrative board elects 3 persons, and that is what is, it was being alluded to by Dr. Kheru. So we have 3 co-chairs. We have 3 persons to act as treasurers, 3 members of the secretariat, and 3 members for communication and public relations. So that is the executive board that meets more regularly, at least twice per month, to get information from the committees. So the committees now we have, again, as I'd mentioned before, we have an advocacy committee, events committee, business development committee, and sacramental rights committee. So they meet on a weekly basis to take decisions and refer those decisions to the executive board, which meets twice per month, and refer those decisions to the administrative board. So we have a structured operation, and it's going well. We are growing, and we are looking forward to for example, we have an organization of youth called Life Yard in the inner city community of Kingston, and one of their representatives is a co-chair. So we welcome. We have wide open arms.
So how do how do they get so you register through, you become a member, because obviously
the organization becomes a member.
The organization becomes a member, and you do that how?
They go through the Constitution. So once they have read the Constitution and are prepared to sign on to it,
yes,
then they sign on. And so Life Yard, at our last anniversary, they signed the Constitution.
Right.
Previously, at the launch, we had all the other members sign the Constitution. So once you are prepared to sign on to the Constitution, then you do so.
Is this a Constitution that you've said that the 12 tribes, they haven't signed yet?
They have not signed.
And also the Nyabingi?
Yes.
All right. So these are 2 significant groupings.
But it is also interesting that the EABIC, prior to this organization being formed, they were not. They were also, reluctant to join up, and they have joined up, and they are actively participating. Priest Lamont is from the representing the EAB.
Priest Lamont, what were some of the issues that you looked at that said, we're going to have to sign up to this for the wider and greater good?
Just before I even say that, Sister Kabu, I just want to say to the youth before I forget, that we are really calling Rastafari youths to come to the Harambee Hall, come and get the vibes of a school of vision chanting and feel some soul vibes. Come and get the vibes of a Baba Shanti chanting some Nyabingi, of the Nyabingi drummers, come and get the vibes of Rastafari togetherness, because the youths are out there and they are so aloof from everything, So I think they need to know that the Harambee Hall is a space where it's a family. You are getting the Rastafari experience, the real Rastafari vibes. We're calling the youth to Rastafari youth. They need to come out to the Harambee Hall.
Where is it Harambee Hall, and how do they? What do you mean come out to the Harambee?
Different spaces. We announced the different location. We had the last one at the Bob Marley Beach, and we have had a few at House of Seba and so forth. But we are moving them around.
Okay.
But it's always announced.
Okay.
We are really asking for as much publicity of the Harambee Hall when they are announced, and that the youths make effort, because that's where they are going to get away from the ordinary things that are out there that are attracting them.
Yes.
That are so much.
We're gonna have to meet. You're gonna have to meet them where they are on TikTok and Instagram And so, because I watch School of Vision every Saturday. I'm there with the School of Vision, just watching them on the social media. I am dancing and drumming and just moving around my house, just doing my thing. School of Vision media, and I like what they're doing. I listen to, the I call it the message because me come from a Pentecostal background. I listen to the message and so on, and it's really a great thing. So we're moved into a whole different kind of ways of communicating, and I think maybe this is where the youth are, from my personal experience. And that's what I'm there, So maybe I'm going to like School of Vision. I'm be all on TikTok. I'm just saying.
To come.
Yeah.
But I think, before us, I don't know if Priest Lamont finished.
Yes, Priest, go ahead.
Coming back to the point there, Sister Kabu, and that you had asked, what was that again?
Yes, I was asking you, because you signed on later, and we still don't have 12 Tribe and Nyabingi signing on, even though they're there. I understand that they're there, they're observers, and they have seen the documents and so on. But that the EABIC signed on, and I'm thinking, what was it? What was the thing that made you say, well, we've got to be a part of this. We've got to be a part of this historical event?
Of course, it was a decision taken after much upheaval and disgruntlement within the Bobo Shanti Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
However, we, having discussed as the Council of Elders, which is right now the most organized aspect of the Congress right now, where one can get information and direction. And so the Council of Elders, which are those elders, both male and female, that have been there from over 40 years and more, including myself.
Yes.
And we have formed the Council of Elders. Did not exist in formality when King Emmanuel was seated. Mm-hmm. However, we have seen the need to have a Council of Elders, and it remains to be a standard group of Bobo Ashanti elders.
Yes.
I have reasoned with them, and of course we know that every Rastafari, I say, organized and centralized, because that's the command of the Honorable King Emperor Haile Selassie I, our divine King and Father.
Right.
It's also the message of Marcus Messiah Garvey, which we as Bobo Shanti hold as a part of the Holy Trinity.
Yeah.
And he said, we have to get together. It is also the word of King Emmanuel.
Mm-hmm.
The church is one foundation.
Yes.
It's Rastafari, and that is our head.
Yes.
And so we look at the fact that all the outstanding people that we look for, they have called for unity. We said, what are we doing then? If that's not what we are doing, if we are not aiming towards the oneness, especially we see that our biggest disadvantage. Mm-hmm. And so we reasoned, and they said, of course, it's time. We talked about pictures like when King Emmanuel called National Gathering of Rastafari. We discussed the aim and objectives of those gatherings. We talked about the drawbacks that they had, the beating of King Emmanuel, all the various things. And we decided that, of course, the aim was unity. And despite all the difficulties and the situations, the aim has to be accomplished. Yeah. And so they advised that, of course, sit at the RMO, sit at the table, because we went to the table to discuss some issues that were presented to RMI. It did not go the way, but we thought that we have stayed together for a while, and we loved the feeling that we got while we were there discussing. And so even though that matter had fallen through, we decided that it's important to stay together.
Okay.
And it being there for over like 18 months as observers, we thought that.
So you're on as observers for a while, and then signed on later on. Okay. And do you expect the Nyabingi and the 12 Tribe of Israel to sign on shortly?
Well, they have hinted that, the Nyabingi has hinted, they have said more than one, 3 or 4 times, that they have come close to the point where they are going to be signing on. And we are hoping that we will see a fulfillment of that in the near future, because of course the elders are there at all times, most of the times, Rasaya V, Sister Midse, all the various Nyabingi stalwarts are there.
Yeah.
I know that like us in the Bobo Ashanti, where we have our internal,
Yes, we do that. We do know that, but the process, yeah.
We hope that does not delay them too long, and which is those exist almost in every group, even in small families.
Yeah.
So it's not about seeing eye to eye. It's about being logical and doing the logical thing that can lead to facts and truth.
Yes. All right.
So we're looking forward to that.
All right. Brilliant. Sister Kheru, you were saying?
I wanted to make sure, give thanks,
Yes.
Honorable Priest Lamont. That was, I think, very important, information to bring ones up who might not be aware of the developments, but maybe to leave on a very positive note, because this advocacy committee has not only been advocating for rights with, constitutional rights, but also participation and engagement in opportunities. So the Jamaica Business Development Corporation has met with a number of the executive members, and I think a very positive direction has been sought now in broad terms, but to have really serious recognition of authentic Rastafari produced products within the initiatives that they're supporting, from marketing, market access, branding, all of these kind of technical supports. And so we're now in a process that we're engaging towards mapping of Rastafari producers. So this is a sort of commercial call to the Rastafari community to reach out to the RMO through its website. There's a contact sheet on the website there. So very important, if you're a Rastafari producer, to be acknowledged now within the database so that we can ensure that the Jamaica Business Development Corporation's e-commerce platform will be accessible as well as shops. So these are some of the concrete ways now. We've been talking a lot about things in parliamentary processes and, big scale things, which all are going to be necessary small steps. But these are things that we can take a hold of now. The JBDC is acknowledging the RMO and has said they want to work with us. So it's time now, I think, that we step up to the plate now and do something real within the Rastafari community. We claim that, we own that. And we cannot make it be that there are, non-Rastafarian companies benefiting from the Rastafari imagery, symbols, colors, etc. It's a low-hanging fruit.
And this is like an opportune time when there are so many changes happening around us. If it's going to happen, let it happen now.
Absolutely.
We're going to wrap, but just to quickly remind us, Sister Nani, about the 18th, Bad Friday, and what's going to happen.
Yes, give thanks, Sister Kabu. The gates will open at 11 a.m. We have specially organized a children's section, children activities. We'll be having craft for them, drumming, storytelling, and the like. So we want we want everyone to be a part of it, and for the patrons to bring their children with them. It's a family day, right? It's a day and night event. So we will officially open the event at 1 with the EABIC doing the invocation and performing for us, and the banquet for elders will start at 2 p.m. where we, as we normally do, we treat the elders to a 3-course meal. Then we will have the speakers corner with Dr. Kerida McDonald, Dr. Barnett, and myself, Ras Ige, and Dr. Marcus Goff will be in the symposium section. And after that, we will have a Rastafari fashion show, courtesy of Empress Samantha of School of Vision.
That sounds nice.
So that is a part. And then after that, we will have we'll start the cultural presentation, the stage show with all the artists that are listed there.
Sounds good.
By the way, Mutabaruka will be there during the course of the day, spinning his selections on black music.
All right.
Yeah.
Just as we are bigging up individual members, also wanted to do a shout out to House of Seba in Trelawney because they've had another win, and it's important to really highlight these wins for the Rastafari community. They're having now a weekly, I think inspired by the Harambe Hall, now having a weekly event right there at Saltmarsh, Trelawney, with partnering with Ibera Star. So, this is showing where Rastafari can really claim the space, take advantage, and get the rightful returns.
All right. Thank you so much.
I wanted to say $1,000 for admission, and children under 12 will be free for the commemorative event.
All right. And that's the 18th, which is
at Waterfletcher Beach.
All right. And then remember that the Chief Techi event will be happening in St. Mary on April 8th. So you've got the 8th and you've got the 18th. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Kirita. Thank you so much, Sister
Thank you
Nancy.
so much, Sister Kabu.
Thanks to Honorable Priest Lamont on the phone. Priest, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And give thanks. And also to Dr. Marcus Goff and Dr. Kadamawi Knife, advance of the Rastafari Nation and demandments for a Rastafari Act. We'll certainly follow up.
Sister Kabu,
thank you.
Yes.
Keep it blazing.
Thank you, my sister. Love you too. Love you too. Enough love. Give thanks. All right. Just about time to say goodbye. But morning. Until Biggie grab the microphone, man. I know you. It looked like you were at the stadium. Biggie, if you just pin the microphone around there, so So those who remember. Those who've been here, if you know, you know. I'm just going to say that, right? How could you?
I was always an out of the box. It's not surprising that you should find it different or radical.
Yes, man, out on a limb. This is really crazy. The gospel program used to start like this. Hold on. Because you see, it's a praise man. No, hold on, listen to this.
Everything has evolved. I still I don't play the music I used to play 10 years ago.
I know, but this used to be a theme.
Yes, themes change too.
Yeah, that's true.
Themes change too, and I don't think the message has changed. But
there you go.
The evolution is real. That's only the revolution.
The evolution is. Listen, man, that was some fortitude, man. That is serious business. And that, I think, when you talk about the radical IRFM was radical, the general manager was radical, but there were the presenters. I mean, that was a whole different radical.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and it was allowed.
Of course, and I think it changed the perspective of a lot of persons who were on the fence and other persons who saw things through conventional eyes.
Yeah.
For example, just the speaking of Patwap on radio was just different.
Yeah, that was also radical. That was straight radical.
Yeah, man, it was just radical.
Yeah. A Mighty Mike, a Motor Baruka, I mean, that was... And not only speaking Pat, some people never did even have wear shoes. Pat one song, but some people never did wear shoes.
We were radical not because we pretended to be radical or it was fashionable. It was because we were radical at the core.
Yes.
Some of us were soldiers in plain clothes, while others did have on the uniform.
Yes, that is true. That is quite true. It was a whole different. The revolution was happening in real time.
In real time.
Yeah. This was quite something, just to reflect on it, kind of bring back so many memories because nothing was standard. We changed even the meaning of radio broadcasting, what it means, what it looked like, what it sound like. We changed the sound of radio broadcasting. On a Sunday, it wasn't Engelberg, Umperdink, and Golf,
Jim Reeves
and Jim Reeves and them youth there because that's all you used to hear on a Sunday.
Of course.
And then all of a sudden you hear this, hold on. Because remember, a few years I listened to Engelberg Umperdink on a Sunday, and then it touched. And it's not 10 o'clock, it's 9 o'clock. Because 9 o'clock used to come out. You check 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning and you hear this. Listen. So didn't you go to the stadium?
No, I didn't, and I wanted to go, and I still might go because it's a 2-4. What do you call it? A 2-4 today, because I'd love to see the expo, which is just happening.
Okay,
next door,
yes.
I'd love to see the finals of the track. Except that I am understanding that it is starting very early with intentions to finish early, so I don't know if I'll catch it.
Right, because even on Friday, it started like, 5 o'clock or 5?
No, man, it's starting like at 2:30 today.
Oh, 2:30 today. Oh, so they're wrapping up by about 5 then?
4:30.
Oh, goodness.
Based on what Roger Hasfall said last night.
Okay. Why do you think, I thought of you when I saw the...
It's nice to think of me.
Yes.
You don't normally do.
Every time I have a question, I think of you. Every time I have a question I cannot answer myself, I think of you. And if I think that you would answer in a particular way, I don't call you. So the fact that I never call you means that I answered it in your way.
You answered it.
Right.
So what is the question?
I thought of why the stadium so empty Friday and nearly and Saturday, and why the turnout was like the way it was, why the marketing was so poor, why it looked the way it looked. I mean, this is the production obviously is very good. The idea is pretty good. And that it's happening at the stadium in Jamaica is even better. But that the Jamaican people didn't seem to support it. And I asked, what would Big A say about it? And I answered it.
And what did Big A say?
Big A said it might have to do with I should look at the main person who is putting all of this together, and to see what that main person's relationship is like with others, and then to move that forward now to see how that main person dealt with, say, the Jamaican space and so on and so forth. So I answered it that way.
Okay. Big A apparently is in your head, so.
so Big A is right?
But not only that.
Okay.
I think that and I had this conversation with Robert briefly last week. In that, I think the lineup, the star-studded lineup in the main is absent. And
Big A told me that too.
Yeah.
Yes.
We didn't see, and I know that there might be several reasons, but we didn't see a Kishian Thompson.
Right.
We didn't see.
Yeah. And Big A told me that exact name. I'm serious.
Right.
Yes.
We didn't see some of the big guns. We're just coming out of the Olympics.
Right,
so
right.
those names resonate
Yes.
with the Jamaican people. They are fresh in their mind. And
Yes.
those are the names they'd love to see in action.
Mm-hmm. So I was also wondering about, because you're already coming into Jamaica, where Jamaica is the standard, because you've got a South.
Yeah, we'd love to see, for example, even though, take Pocket Rocket out of retirement.
Right.
Make her come run a celebrity race.
Yes.
Sharika, and so on. I think the Jamaican public would have turned.
Did it miss a marketing core? Something you could have, a peg you could have cut your hat. To me, it missed that. And I veered off because even there, my daughter said to me, well, maybe they should have carried Chris Brown. so even she's thinking,
to do
Mark,
what? To run the 100?
to just, Can you imagine if you had Chris Brown and you saying, but you're saying, I know he lost his dad, so I'm not quite sure if you would have been there anyway.
Right.
Did he go any at all?
No, I didn't. I don't know.
So condolences to you saying.
No,
but
of course.
But in any case, what was the marketing? What was the selling point of all of this? Why were we supposed to go?
And that's the point. And if the lineup was stellar in the Jamaican eyes, then I believe that we would have a reason to go.
And do you think a Kishane could have changed the dynamics?
Not maybe not singularly, but he would be part of the lineup that I think would be more impressive.
Or before you come in, or even when you come, have the people.
What's the name of the guy who won the 100 ahead of Kishane in the Olympics? What's his name?
Oh, if you know that.
Yeah, man. Remember Kishane came second, the finals.
Which Olympics?
The last one.
I don't have that name. If somebody got text it to me by now.
Right, remember.
Which guy? Who beat Kishane? Text it to me, somebody.
The 100. Right. Don't know the names, the American.
Right. Nobody not text it yet.
The American youth.
What to you, Andrew? Text a thing.
Right. But anyway, this is what I believe the lineup was short of.
Okay. Well, Andrew is saying that I agree with you both. Drug Andrew, you cannot. Anyway, look here, Andrew. And I can't read what I'm saying because, well, let me just say he agrees with what Bigay told me. But and then he said, Noah Lyle. Is it Noah Lyle?
Yes.
So you know there?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, the man see man and girlfriend are dance up and up on social media. I thought they were actually here.
No.
Okay. All right, so thank you, Andrew. He says, no, I lie. Oh, Andrew showed me one picture. I said, this huge. Look at I said, this huge. Oh, goodness. Yes, it's the same one with my girlfriend. I dance up and down, but, half naked by the place. But, well, I think that Noah Lyle, and okay, so you could have carried a Noah Lyle on Kishade and so on, but you would have to talk up a conflict, a tension.
Not necessarily. That would have been, I guess, over the top. But just the fact that they are here and historically, I mean, this is recent history. This is last year we're talking about.
Right.
These names, because people are still waiting on that revenge. Right.
So that's a detention.
No,
the revenge.
And this is what I'm saying. Yes. So you don't even have to bill it.
That's true. It bill itself. It's already
It bill itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, that kind of thing, that kind of lineup would have been, I believe.
It is such, I mean, the people who've come in, beautiful. Me like how the stadium looking on, can't nobody say no big. The stadium, they look good,
The track look good.
It look good. The track would, the track look good and the field look good.
Yeah, it look good.
Yeah, so it looked good. I like the look of it, and it looked good for the people international, global TV. That is one thing. But goodness gracious me, the team that came in really good, the athletes who have come in really good. We're glad to see the hurdlers and we're glad to see all of them. And so it's really, it has all the hallmarks of a really good production. But Jamaican people just did not turn out. And I think there's going to have to be a post-mortem. And then people have to look at themselves.
It has to be studied, as my friend would say.
Studied?
This is cliche.
Oh, to be studied,
yeah,
right,
it has to be studied.
It has to be studied.
It has to be studied.
Is it that, Clyde McKenzie?
No.
Oh, okay. It has to be studied. Definitely it has to be studied. So you're going to go catch it today, though, if you can.
I'm going to certainly try. But let me ask you, and I honestly don't know, what's the price point? That's another.
I think it's $200 for these 3 days.
No, and I also heard that Bleachers is free.
Yeah, but Bleachers was free and nobody never turned out. So it was $200 over 3 days.
And that is, it looked bad now.
It looked bad now for true, because here's the thing. Remember, some people buy a ticket already. The 10 people were buying $200. They were there. And then you make Bleachers free. Are you going to return the $200 to the people? And then you say Bleachers is free and the people still didn't go. And you partner with Issa, with that just packed the stadium, and people still didn't go. So what is missing?
It has to be studied.
I didn't even see it on the social media. I'm on the social media. It not come up on my algorithm. Never did an algorithm at all. It just wasn't happening. I had to search. I had to go. How did you watch it the first night?
I didn't. I relied on the reports from Irie.
So I went to Grand Slam YouTube channel, and they were carrying it.
I did see bits of it, to be honest with you. But
they were carrying it, but not
in a sustained way.
Yeah.
And I realized that there weren't many people.
And they say it was going to be on Rush TV on 691, and then it was all lined up for it, and then Flo just took it on and said, take it off and said this channel not available. And it was coming on Peacock and NBC. And if you don't have certain Fire Stick or how much Fire Stick, I don't know how much stick you have in a fire, I don't know. But I go to YouTube.
And you got it there.
I got it there. But, it's
no, man, but the lineup, I believe, if you are a track and field junkie, then you would have been impressed. But Jamaicans, by and large, are Wakanis.
True. Me teacher.
Yeah.
Wagon is number one, but I used to be an athlete, you know. I won 200, 100, 400.
I was a long jump specialist.
And long distance. Oh, really?
Yes, I did. And I broke my hand doing another event, and my mother decided
that
to
was the discus or the shot put?
No,
or
man,
you break your hand?
Track. That's for another day.
Okay.
That's a story. I fell out of a spikes I borrowed and broke my hand.
We cannot manage it.
But I'll tell you.
I like the way you said it. You fell out of a spikes you borrowed. Yeah.
No, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
I could call his name too, but
call him name. Call him name.
No.
Call him name, big.
No.
Call him name.
That is for the movie.
Oh, okay.
That's for the movie.
All right.
That's for the movie.
All right. So we are former athletes. So, you know, we love the sport. Just say that.
We do.
And then you have the wagonist. And you're saying because Jamaicans are wagonists, what?
We go to events that are hyped.
Right.
When we follow success, we don't follow failures, right? You know, like for example, a Brazil is a football nation. If it is two youth that kick a little soccer ball around the road of a ram. Yeah. Now Jamaicans, we have to look like we have a World Cup.
Yes,
and we fill the stadium.
True.
If not, they can fling stone in the little body.
That's right. That's right.
That is how. That is how we are.
Yeah. And so there might have been a misunderstanding too on how Jamaicans consume and engage with athletics on for them part. Like it's not a given that the stadium will go full, no matter who you're carrying. Because we're not celebrity. We're not really celebrity enough for a business. No. We don't really care about the celebrity.
No.
So
not at all.
Right. Anyway, well, I'm so sorry, but it's not. It's still going on at the stadium. So I suppose if you go now, you can catch a last year. Look, beach is still free today.
Yes.
I'm not going to go sit on the bleachers, man. On Sunday, chop. And big year come to, so at least him out there. Muta ya go? Muta na go bleachers. I'm telling you now. Muta, all I see is in a grandstand for me.
Yeah, but Muta is the celebrity among us. You know?
That's there you go.
He's the celebrity.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to put Muta another 100. Put Muta another 100. Right? And that will make a difference. If you say today that Muta going to run today, anyways, people will go.
Well, the barefoot 100?
Of course. Muta, it can work because my sister was one of the first person to run barefoot at the stadium. And there's something tear up our foot bottom. And my father said, no more. Anyway, Big A, this is how I leave you. And I think I'm going to leave you with this because, just because.
Just because.
Yeah. Goodbye. See you next week. Thank you so much for listening.